Story 1. My girlfriend left me hanging when her friends embarrassed me. I've had enough of this drama. My girlfriend, let's call her Sonia, was going to a ladies' brunch this past weekend. She asked if I could pick her up. I said sure. She texted me and asked if I wanted to grab a drink with them, and then we could go. I said I didn't want to intrude, but she insisted and said it was fine, so I joined. No one was talking to me when I got there, and when I tried to join the conversation, I was ignored. That one drink before we leave started to turn into more. She had her arm around me but wasn't looking or talking to me. I felt pretty excluded, so I excused myself, said something came up, and went to leave. I sent her a quick text saying I felt like I was intruding and that it was no problem. I'd pick her up later. She immediately called me, insisted that I come back, that I was imagining it, etc., so I did. Things did seem better at this point. People were looking at me, and it seemed whatever weirdness was over. I was enjoying myself until I got back from the restroom. Immediately, her friends did a hush-hush. One of her friends told me to excuse myself from the conversation. I was sort of taken back, so I looked at Sonia. She didn't look at me. I felt shitty, like a child that's asked to sit in a corner or something, and I didn't want to make a scene, so I stood up to leave. Then she says, No, just excuse the topic. Don't listen for a bit. I'm just confused at this point, so I sit back down and pull out my phone. Obviously, I can't not listen, and they're talking about my girlfriend's ex. He's apparently missing in a foreign country. No one knows where he is. Sonia gets these weird calls from different numbers every couple of months. It's been 2 years. This is all mostly new to me, and the moment I start to hear her getting weird calls from him, I just get up and go to the bar. I didn't want to make a scene or anything, but talking about that in front of me without holding my hand, asking me if it was all right to dive into talking about her ex, or even looking at me at all just seemed really humiliating and disrespectful. So, 40 minutes go while I'm at the bar. She texts me a sorry 20 minutes in, but it takes another 20 for her to stop the conversation. I've just been eating dinner at the bar and grabbing a drink when she comes over to apologize. I tell her that it's not okay, that I feel really hurt and angry, and that if the situation was reversed, she would be furious, which she agrees with. We go back and forth at the bar and then go home. On the way home, she's extremely defensive. She apologizes and then gets mad at me for not saying it's okay. She says that she knows she made a mistake, but what else should she do? She blames me for leaving the conversation. She's getting angry, so I drop her off at home, say goodnight, and go home. The next day, she is extremely apologetic. She says she was a horrible girlfriend. She says she has no idea why she didn't change the topic, look at me, or why it took her 40 minutes to realize that it was shitty to invite your boyfriend and then exclude him so you can talk about your ex. She says she barely slept last night because she has no idea why she acted like that or why she got angry at me for expressing how I was feeling. We ended up having a long conversation where she listened to me without getting upset. She apologized profusely. She promised it wouldn't happen again, etc. Unfortunately, now I can just feel all of my guard up. I know that in the grand scheme of a relationship, this wasn't some grand betrayal or anything, but it really feels like in such a simple, obvious moment to have your partner's back. She totally let me down. This isn't the first time I felt excluded around her friends either, but before I just chalked it up to my insecurities. Now I feel like I don't trust that she'll stand up for me or consider me at all when she's around her friends. I don't need her focus to be on me or anything, but when she's around my friends and I always make an active effort to include her in our conversations. If one of my friends told Sonia to excuse herself from the conversation, I would shut that friend down and tell him not to talk to her like that. If my friends were asking me about my ex while she was around, I would say, "Who cares? I have Sonia with me now," and make it clear to her that she was my priority. We've talked about all of this. I've communicated all of this. She has apologized profusely, and she has promised that it won't happen again. She has made it clear that she understands how I'm feeling, and I greatly appreciate that. I don't feel safe around her friends, and that trust needs to be earned again, which she has acknowledged. Unfortunately, in the meantime, I don't know how to feel better. I still feel hurt, I'm still kind of pissed, and I still feel worried. She was going on a bachelorette party weekend in Maui with these friends, and I wasn't worried before, but now because I don't know that I can trust her around her friends, I start catastrophizing in my head about things going down at that party. I feel like I need something from her, and I don't know what it is. Furthermore, I don't really know how I can get it outside of just more time with her friends and more evidence that I won't get repeatedly thrown under the bus in that situation. More info. It's just so out of character for her to treat me like that. Part of what I love about her is how usually in tune she is with me, how upfront she is about what she needs, and how receptive she is to my needs. I don't feel like this was big enough to break up over, and 99% of the time she makes me really happy. I just don't understand where this came from, and it makes me wonder if this is a fluke or if it's the real her. She has said she realizes how awful it was. She has been very comprehensive and sincere in her apology. I'm just so thrown. However, she said that if something like this ever happened again, she'll shut down the topic. Also, the phone calls are definitely from him. Sorry if I was unclear about that. I wasn't following the conversation closely enough, so I was trying to convey my experience. One of the friends was friends with the ex before she was friends with Sonia, and that friend brought it up to try to get info. None of his friends know where he is or what happened, and this isn't the reason they broke up. She left him, then all this happened. She basically said that she's 100% over him, but they were together/engaged for almost a decade, and it's a little scary for someone who was a part of your life like that to be missing in such a weird way. I definitely need to ask her more about the calls. I think she did the thing that I understand, where in her mind, they were meaningless and she didn't want to worry me about them. I think the intention was positive. It just made what happened sting all the more. I really want to stay together, but I definitely can't forget this. I want to be in a place where I can forgive, but it is challenging right now. I think a lot of this can be chalked up to my boundaries. Obviously, her behavior wasn't good, but knowing her, I feel like if I had been more able to articulate what was wrong before it went too far, or just left when I said I was going to leave, this would be a very different story. Update. It is absolutely insane that this was only a month ago. Feels like so much longer. We broke up. I broke up with her last night. Things got better, then they got worse, then they got better again. Then we were around her friends again, and I felt like she was a completely different person who didn't treat me as nicely again. I yelled at her in front of her friends. She yelled at me, and she gave me an ultimatum to spend the night with her or leave forever. I spent the night. Then the next week, I called to talk about how uncomfortable I was with that ultimatum, and she immediately accused me of trying to break up with her. She then drove over to pick up her stuff without listening to me at all. She called me after she picked up her stuff to apologize. She then blamed me for everything that happened. Then she accused me of playing her and cheating on her. Then called me again to say how hurt she was that I didn't fight for her harder when she suggested breaking up. The next day, I sent her a breakup text because I felt like I couldn't do it in person. She drove over, said everything would change, things would be different. We worked so well together not to let one mistake ruin what we had. I said, let me think on my own for a week. Obviously, she did not leave me alone that week. For one day, she started with good mornings and pleasantries, which I asked her to stop for the week, then about how hard it was the next day, then the day after that about all the good times we had, then the next day about how torturous what I was doing was to her and that she would never do this to me. That one stung a lot. All of that honestly made the decision easier. I don't think she was doing it intentionally. I just think she was in a lot of pain and thought this was her one chance to change my mind. So she threw all caution or fear of looking crazy/foolish to the wind. I don't know. Last night we sat down to dinner, which was pleasant. I made it clear we were done and said goodbye. Then when I got home, she called me, begged me to come over one more time, said she was terrified about being alone, said that we were perfect for each other. She loved me, and she couldn't say goodbye. After about 30 minutes of us both sobbing into our phones. 25 more minutes than I should have let it go on. I said I would say goodbye and hang up, and I did. I turned off my phone and woke up to 3 voicemails and 10 texts ranging from how much trouble she was in, thanking me for our time together, to asking if she could come over, to saying that she'll always love me. The last thing she sent me was a very rational, very honest apology saying she won't contact me. She'll always love me. That she was sorry for hurting me and that she never meant to. I know my last post really brought out a lot of anger toward her. And seeing it all written out like this, trust me, I'm aware of how manipulative and manic she was. It's just so difficult because it would switch on a dime. Sometimes we were great and it was so calm and safe, and then boom, I would have my guards raised higher than a skyscraper and we would be going at it. So when she leaves a voicemail that sounds more like that side of her, my heart just melts until I remember the other side, which isn't hard. I have so much tangible evidence of that other side now in texts and voicemails. It's also hard because in that dinner, we both acknowledged that it was mostly when she was around her friends, and that's something that in some part of my head feels fixable. It's just really hard. Rationally, I know that I would have to be a masochistic idiot to stay in this dynamic, but in my gut and in my heart, I feel like I just threw away something amazing, that this was it for me, that love is worth fighting for, that these fights were us challenging each other, and that we could have emerged on the other side as stronger, more complete, better people and a fantastic couple. But like I said, I know that's not true. It's just really, really hard not to let my mind go there. It doesn't help that one of the main things she told me was that I think too much and to go with my heart. As is the case with most of the updates that end in breakups, I don't really know what I'm looking for here. The writing on the wall saying I did the right thing couldn't be clearer, but it sure as hell doesn't feel right now. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Husband wants to give up one of our twin daughters for adoption so he can save money for his dream business. So I set crazy conditions and filed for divorce instead. Hey guys! So, I'm in a bit of a situation right now and I want to know what you guys think. I've read a lot of posts here, but I'm not sure that the situation I'm in right now is very common, so please bear with me. I, 28F, have been married to my husband, 30M, for 10 months, and before getting married, we dated for a year. I knew him back in high school, but we reconnected only a year ago through social media. Things were nice at first. While we were dating, he was charming and really sweet, so I fell for him pretty hard. 1 year into the relationship, I accidentally got pregnant and initially wanted to terminate the pregnancy, since I didn't think I was ready for a baby. But he convinced me to keep the baby. He reassured me that he'd take care of the expenses and I wouldn't have to worry about any of that, which was the biggest of my concerns. After a few weeks of convincing, I agreed to have the babies and moved in with him as well. 3 months after I found out I was pregnant, he proposed to me, and I said yes because we were already living together and things were going well. We got married within 2 weeks of the proposal, and it was a small and intimate ceremony. Everything was smooth sailing relationship-wise until we found out that we were having twins at 6 months. Then things started going a little awry, and my husband started distancing himself from me. I tried not to take it to heart because I really wanted to believe that I'd made the right choice. But with time, I was less and less sure of it because the closer I got to my due date, the more the distance between my husband and I increased. I confronted him about it several times, but he told me that he was fine, just nervous about the babies, and that's all. I took his word for it and tried not to worry too much, but I couldn't help it. About a month and a half ago, I finally gave birth to 2 beautiful twin daughters, and I couldn't have been more thrilled about it. My husband seemed happy, but that didn't last for long. And in fact, he went back to his usual distant and glum self. Once my daughters were born, he would do everything but wouldn't talk to me, and I felt like he didn't even love me or the kids anymore. And then he finally proved me right a week ago by saying that he wanted to give one of our daughters up for adoption because this wasn't part of the plan, and he wanted to save money for the future. By the future, he meant that he wanted to save money so that he could start his own business later on in life. But with twins, that wouldn't be possible because the expenses of having a child were now doubled. I was shocked that he would even suggest something like this, but he was quite serious. He told me that he'd been planning to quit his 9-to-5 job for a while now and had wanted to do it in a couple of years, but having to spend money on raising 2 kids as opposed to 1 would set him back by several years, so this is the easiest solution he could find. I'm obviously against it, and we got into a huge fight over it. We didn't speak for days after that fight. Yesterday, I finally made up my mind to leave him. I told him that I wanted to end this marriage because I couldn't stay with a man who was willing to just give one of our kids up. But he got really upset when I said that. He told me that he didn't intend to seem cruel and that he truly did love both his daughters equally. But he also wanted to have a future for himself and he really hated his job, which is what his excuse for his crappy behavior was. I desperately wanted to slap him back to his senses and make him realize how insane he was being. But instead, I chose to deal with the situation with a cool mind. I told him that I'd agree to let him give one of our daughters up for adoption if and only if He agreed to let me claim 75% of whatever his income would be once he did manage to start his own business, and he'd also continue to pay 50% of the expenses as child support for the daughter who would be put up for adoption until she turned 18. I told him that I'd talk to a lawyer and have the contract drawn up as soon as possible if he agreed to my conditions right now, and would contact an adoption agency at the earliest without question if he said yes. He was dumbstruck when I said that, but after contemplating for a few seconds, he told me that I was being unfair and that I didn't understand how much his startup idea meant to him. He told me he even had friends on board for whenever they'd saved enough, and that he'd done a lot of research about investors and whatnot as well, so keeping one of the kids would only delay his future plans. He pleaded with me not to leave and not to set forth such absurd conditions either, but just to think about his position for a second. Of course, I had no intention of thinking about him or his predicament at all, and neither did I intend to give up either of my daughters because of my husband. I just wanted to mess with him and make him feel just as bad as he'd made me feel. Luckily, it was working. He's been begging me to change my mind, but I've made it very clear that he can either agree to my conditions or I'm going to file for divorce. I was going to file for divorce either way, but I just wanted to buy myself some time to look for an apartment and a lawyer. Today, a friend of mine told me that I could live with her until I found an apartment. She doesn't know the whole situation but has agreed to let me stay at her place for a while, and has even offered to put me in touch with a divorce attorney. A few hours ago, my soon-to-be ex-husband came back from work and actually had the audacity to look shocked when he saw me packing my stuff up to leave. He told me that he hadn't even made up his mind about my conditions yet, and said that it was unfair of me to leave before even hearing what he had to say. But I told him that the conditions I'd set forth yesterday were all bogus and there was just no way I was staying with him anymore. I told him to expect to be served with divorce papers in a few days and prepare himself to pay child support anyway since we were in this equally. He freaked out and said that I'd wasted his time, and if I had no intention of staying anyway, then I shouldn't have misled him and tricked him yesterday. I was in no mood to deal with him and left him in the living room having a breakdown on his own. It's been a few hours since I left, and I'm at my friend's place currently. A couple minutes ago, my husband sent me a message saying that he'd actually spoken to a lawyer today and he decided that he was going to agree to my conditions now. Needless to say, I was really shocked to learn that because I actually hadn't expected him to agree to my bogus conditions. The point of it was to make my husband realize how ridiculous his suggestion about putting up one of our daughters for adoption was, but apparently he'd been considering it seriously now. Of course, I don't want to entertain that because I really don't think the conditions mean anything. Even if he'd agreed to let me have 100% of his income, I still wouldn't have given up either of my babies. I'm not going to let go of my child for anything in the world, let alone a business that doesn't even exist yet. So I told him that the conditions weren't real, and so neither did any of what he'd done today matter anymore. He called me a psychotic B-word and told me that he was going to ruin me for messing with his head just to get back at him. Am I the A for putting forth bogus conditions for my husband when he demanded that we give up one of our daughters so that he could save money to invest in his future business? Update 1. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for the overwhelming support and response, and a special hug to everyone who actually bothered to reach out to me and messaged me. I am grateful to everyone who went through my original post and tried to talk to me. I went through all the comments on my post, and I've decided that I don't owe my husband an apology in the slightest, because he's the one who messed up, not me. I did the right thing, and even if I did try to get into his head with my conditions, he deserved it. A man who's willing to give his own daughter up for adoption is not a man who deserves any sympathy from anyone at all. Now that I think of it, it's actually crazy how he was willing to let go of his own flesh and blood for a non-existent business. He works at a bank, gets paid well, and rarely has to work overtime, so it's not like his current job is eating away at his soul, which is what he makes it sound like. What a ridiculous man. I saw a lot of people in the comments had a lot to say about how fast my relationship had moved and called me stupid for allowing myself to get carried away. I won't say I was stupid, but I do agree that I did lower my standards significantly because I'd had a couple of bad relationships in the past, and in the beginning my soon-to-be ex seemed like a wonderful guy. Obviously, if I'd had even a clue as to what was going to happen in the future, I wouldn't have started dating him in the first place. At least I have my daughters now, so that's one good thing that came out of this. Looking back now, of course, I think I could have dealt with the situations better than I did, but it's not like I regret anything. There were also some people who were worried about me because they believed that my husband was unhinged and would try to physically attack me. While that could be a possibility, I don't think he'd try because I'm a lot bigger than him physically. I'm the same height as him and weigh slightly more, but I also go to the gym regularly and I'm trained in kickboxing, so it's not exactly like he can take me on. I don't want to shame him, but he's comparatively skinny, and I'm not afraid of him attacking me in the least. But of course, him attacking my daughters would be a different story. I'm with him most of the time though, and my husband doesn't know where my friend lives, so it's unlikely that he'll be able to find us. And in the event that he does somehow manage, my friend and I always take turns watching the kids, so I have nothing to worry about. It's really sweet that everyone's concerned about our well-being, but trust me, guys, we're totally and completely safe here. Update 2. So today I finally filed for divorce. It's been a week since I moved out, and I've blocked my husband everywhere, so he hasn't been able to reach out to me yet. He had called my parents a few days back, but they refused to entertain him and blocked him as well. So have all my friends, and right now he just has no way to contact me, which is peaceful and stress-free for me. I've resumed working from home because I really need the money right now, since I don't think my husband is reliable at all. I'm dog-tired, but this is my best bet moving forward, and I'm lucky that my friend has been kind enough to help me out with a place and also lends a helping hand whenever she's at home and watches the kids for me. She's been doing more than my soon-to-be ex-husband would when I was living with him during the first few weeks after I gave birth. I guess it should have been my signal to hit the road, but I still wanted to continue trying and wanted to make things work with him. I've demanded full custody of my daughters, and I don't think it should be too much trouble obtaining that because, the guy was willing to give one of the two up for adoption, so I don't think I need to elaborate. He's clearly not fit to have kids, but since he's the one who convinced me to have them and he's their biological parent as well, he owes it to them whether he wants to do so or not. My lawyer has told me that he'll be served in a couple of days, and I really just hope that he doesn't decide to contest it or do something unnecessary and stupid. He definitely doesn't want me back, and neither do I, but I wouldn't put it past him to contest the petition or try to obtain joint custody of our daughters just to be petty and drag me into a totally unnecessary legal battle so I end up wasting my money on court visits and lawyers. It's unlikely, but it's not impossible that he'd do something like that just to be petty. Besides, he did threaten to get back at me for messing with his head in that text that he sent a week back when he found out that I never intended to give either of my daughters up at all and planned on leaving him anyway. I'm not scared, but truth be told, he is in fact financially better off than I am right now, and maybe he can afford to waste a ton of money on lawyers and legal issues, but I really can't because I have myself to worry about along with my daughters. I'm lucky that my friend is letting me live with her for the time being, but this can't be a long-term plan, and I'll have to start looking for an apartment soon enough. After that, there will be rent, electricity, water, groceries, and a million other bills to think about, so I'm definitely a little concerned about what his response to this petition is going to be. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Update 3. Okay, so my husband finally managed to contact me today. I posted the last update a day before, and not even 24 hours later, he managed to find a way to bother me. I guess I spoke too soon. I had indeed blocked him everywhere, but unfortunately, he knew about my work email address, and I hadn't blocked him there. So he sent me a lengthy email about how I was making a mistake by leaving him and that I couldn't just make a mockery out of our marriage by leaving him within less than a year. He told me that his parents had been asking about their granddaughters, but he obviously didn't have anything to tell or show them and was getting pretty desperate from what I gathered after I went through his email. It's not surprising that he wants to appease his parents and hasn't even told them about the divorce yet because they're kind of on the more conservative side and don't approve of the idea of divorce at all. And my husband lives in a house that's being paid for by his parents, so he has to keep them happy, or else he might end up on the streets. Which is probably why he was so desperate to talk to me and pretend like he'd never called me the B word and threatened to ruin me. He even had the audacity to suggest that we could at least pretend to be married and keep up appearances for his parents' sake for as long as they're around, and whatever he'd inherit from them, we'd split it between the two of us. It was actually pretty funny to go through his email because it made me realize just how delusional this guy was. If he could suggest that we just give one of our daughters up to save money, then trying to strike a deal with me where we pretend to be married for the sake of his parents isn't even the worst idea that he's come up with. It's ridiculous the lengths that he's willing to go to just to satisfy his greed, and I actually feel disgusted with myself for ever believing that this man could have been my soulmate. I can't believe I even stayed married to this clown for so long, even after he started distancing himself from me while I was pregnant with his future kids. That should have been it for me, but unfortunately, I'm too much of a romantic to see things for what they really are, and now this is what I have to deal with. I'm just grateful he's the ridiculous kind of insane that I can laugh at and not the violent kind of insane. I decided to ignore and delete the email and blocked him, but I think he's going to find another way. Update 4. So my soon-to-be ex-husband decided to visit my parents today. He'd been served with the divorce papers 2 days back, and obviously he wasn't taking that well at all. My father called me a few hours ago and told me that my husband was at his door screaming at the top of his lungs and asking him to tell him where I was hiding so that he could talk to me and get his daughters back. I could even hear him screaming in the background and decided that I'd had enough. So I called the cops, reported him, and even drove down there myself to press charges for harassing me and my family relentlessly. He seemed pretty torn up when I showed up at my parents' place with the police and tried to talk to me, but I wasn't having any of it. Involving my parents in this crap first was the last straw for me, and I couldn't let things go anymore just because it was too much of a hassle. He got arrested and was taken away, and when he realized that I was serious and wasn't going to speak to him anymore, he started calling me every derogatory name in the book, as if that was going to bother me at all. Once all that was done with, I came back to my friend's house, and my parents decided to drop me off because they wanted to see their granddaughters as well. I hadn't taken them to see my parents for a while because I was always too worried that my husband might do exactly what he did today, and I didn't want to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I hadn't even realized just how much of my life had been completely taken over with anxiety over what my husband would or wouldn't do, and even though I did say that I was a lot stronger than him and he couldn't overpower me, I was still scared because he actually did seem pretty unhinged now, and I just didn't want my daughters to go through anything. I guess I'm not as fearless as I believed I was, and I definitely am really worried about my babies, even if I'm not worried about myself that much. So I spoke to my parents about this, and even they believe that it's about time that I consider a restraining order against him. This will definitely help me with the custody case as well as getting the child support out of him, so this wasn't totally useless. It's just so frustrating that this is happening at all. I just wish I hadn't married this guy. Update 5. Hey everyone. So there was a huge argument that I had with my in-laws today. I guess my soon-to-be ex-husband finally gathered the courage to inform his parents that he was getting divorced and also that he was probably going to lose custody of his daughters, and they decided to call me and yell at me over it. I wouldn't have answered the call, but they were smart enough to use a number I didn't have saved on my phone and started off the conversation nicely enough. In fact, they even extended their sympathies to me. But then they asked me to reconsider the divorce, and when I still refused, they shed any pretense of being understanding and kind and started yelling at me at the top of their lungs. They called me a lot of things and accused me of ruining their son's life on purpose, being a gold digger and whatnot. I snapped, and I know I should have just hung up, but I ended up yelling right back at them because the one thing that I'm not is a gold digger. I have my own gold, and I'm definitely not going to stay with a guy who is willing to give up his daughter to save some gold and still asks his parents to pay for his accommodation. I told them that their son is a colossal loser and even explained what he suggested in detail, and it seemed to quiet them down. Obviously, he'd left out the parts which made him look bad. But now his parents knew, and what would become of him was also in their hands. I don't think they'd like the idea of their own son suggesting that we give up one of our twins to save money, not after all the crap they talk about family values and morals and blah blah blah. And they definitely won't like the idea that my husband had us pretending to still be married so that he wouldn't be left out of the inheritance. But that's between him and his parents and not me, so I don't have to care about it. I've already filed for a restraining order, and hopefully it'll be granted soon enough. Update 6. Hey, I'm back for one final time because I'm supposed to go back to work physically in a few days. A couple of weeks have passed since my last update, and this is going to be relatively short since all I have to say is that my soon-to-be ex-husband decided not to contest the divorce and also isn't fighting for custody. I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm guessing that his parents kicked him to the curb, and now if he wants to save money, he can't afford to come after me with all that he's got just to be petty, and he definitely cannot ruin me like he'd originally planned to. I'm thrilled because all that's left to do is the settlement negotiations under the supervision of our respective lawyers. Since I do have a restraining order against him now, all I care about is the child support, to be honest, and then I can move on with my life and only think about my beautiful daughters. I've moved into a studio apartment, and I do miss my friend, but I try to get my parents to help me out with the kids sometimes. I'm doing my best, but I'm sure as hell going to give my kids the childhood and life they deserve. Now on to the next story. Story 3. Raising my late best friend's 11-year-old daughter after he and his wife died in a car accident. She's afraid I'll hate her because I never wanted kids. I had posted a few times before on Reddit about my fiancé and about my not wanting kids, our engagement, and the love we have for each other. For the most part, my posts have had happy endings, but this one just isn't a really happy one. Soon after my engagement, my best friend since elementary school and his wife passed away in a car accident, leaving behind their 11-year-old daughter, Amy, not real name. Amy is my goddaughter, but we do refer to each other as niece and tia. I've been there for her whole life, and she has always been one of my favorite people and still is. It's been a really hard several months since the accident, and everyone is having a tough time. I have spent more of my life with my best friend in it than without him. Our parents are best friends due to us being friends at first. I refer to his mom as Mama, his last name, and Dad as Papa, his last name, and he did the same with my parents. My siblings were his siblings. He was an only child. We went to events/cons together a lot, so multiple times since he passed, I've subconsciously bought him a ticket, forgetting that he wouldn't be able to use it. I introduced him to his wife in high school. We were the only two openly nerdy cheerleaders at our school. They got pregnant young, and I was there to help, and I even went so far as to stop eating food she couldn't eat because I could tell being pregnant was not fun for her. I was at the hospital because she was scared and asked me to be close by. I was the first non-blood family member to see Amy. I say all this because he and his family are indeed my family. So them passing was a huge hit for everyone, especially for Amy. Now, the month when it happened, Amy went to stay with her grandparents. Luckily, we all stay in the same big city, so the farthest any one of the family is from the other is an hour at most, and that's mainly due to traffic. The issue, though, is that her grandparents are much older, 70s, compared to my parents, 50s. So while they do very much love her, they are already at that point where they themselves need help. Plus, they just lost their only son and daughter-in-law. Amy's mom's parents are out of state, and they also didn't believe moving her to them and away from everyone she knows was the right thing either. Her grandparents overall didn't think Amy staying with them was the best for her, and they relayed that to my parents, who then mentioned this to me. So, after talking to my fiancé about it, as well as talking about it in therapy, which included me, my fiancé, and both our therapists, we came to the conclusion that we would be happy to take her in since we are financially capable, have the space, and we do also just love her so much. Before the accident, she was realistically at our house at least 3 times a week. She is the reason why I even have an art room, since it was an activity we always did together. Even at 11, she's a fantastic artist. When we approached her grandparents, they were completely on board with the idea, and I do think that a part of them had hoped we would take her without them asking us directly, hence the comment to my parents. However, when we had broached the idea to Amy, she was hesitant. It turns out that she is aware that I never wanted kids and is afraid that I will hate her for having to raise her. It 100% broke my heart that she felt that way, and I tried everything to convince her that was wrong. In the end, I told her the truth. I will never be able to replace her mom or her dad, and I have no plans to. Her parents made me her godmother because they knew that I would love and care for Amy the way they loved and cared for her. I could never hate her. My fiancé even pointed out that I was the one who had the idea to foster her. But I also had to stress to her that this is a new situation for all of us. We are all grieving together, and we are all jumping into this new living situation together. So there will be mistakes, but there will also be a lot of love. We also put her in therapy, which she has been very hesitant about. But after finding out that my fiancé and I are both regularly in therapy, she felt a lot more comfortable. My fiancé has been great through all this and my absolute rock. He was also very close to my best friend. My best friend was going to be his groomsman and was the second person my fiancé asked after he asked his brother to be the best man. My best friend was the type of person who would see something and say, "This looks like something so-and-so would like, so I'm going to buy it for them." So some days I will catch my fiancé staring at one of those many gifts for a long time. Or he will say something like, "I hope they both knew how much I love them." We hold each other tighter now when we hug and kiss longer than before. When I asked about Amy living with us, my fiancé was shocked and wasn't sure how he felt since change was happening lightning fast with the engagement, then the accident, and now with Amy. So I didn't bring it up again until he did a week later with, I thought about it and I think it would be good for all of us, but let's get our therapists together to make sure we aren't jumping the gun because we love her. Amy moved in right after Thanksgiving. All the families got together for the holidays with her to remind her that she is never alone. She has her mom's family out of state, but they call often. Her dad's family, my fiancé's family, out of the country too, minus my fiancé's brother plus his wife. And let's not forget all our friends and their families. There was a lot of crying, but a lot of laughing too. Her living with us is a huge adjustment, but nothing we can't handle. She has always been a sweet girl and very bubbly and loud. Since the accident, she obviously has been a lot more withdrawn and quiet, but I am seeing sparks of herself come back briefly and slowly. We had to switch her therapist a few times, but this current one is definitely helping a lot. Amy really likes her too. Her grades did slip a bit, but my fiancé has made it a point to do homework with her every day, and it made her cry the first few times he did it. He asked her if she wanted him to stop, but it turns out that it just reminded her of her dad. So it really meant a lot that her Tio was so willing to help her too. I was expecting some rebelling, but that hasn't happened yet. LOL. Actually, she has been doing the absolute most. She would clean up after us before we had a chance to do it ourselves, or try to do things for us that seemed a little out of character. After some prodding, it turns out it was because she is afraid we would get rid of her if she upset us or did something wrong. We have stressed that in no way has that even crossed our minds. We are here for her, and unless she wants nothing to do with us, we will continue to be here for her through the good and bad. But let me tell you, I cried so much that night, feeling terrible that she felt that way. I want her to know that our love is unconditional, and it always has been. We are also in the process of setting up a trust for her. Her parents left behind money, and there is money coming in from their insurance policies too. So all that is going in that trust for her. I will also help supplement this trust, plus my fiancé, even though I stress that he doesn't need to. Neither myself nor my fiancé will touch this trust. When she turns 18, she will have access to use the money for college if she decides to go, and a set amount will be available every month to live on. If she decides not to go, then she will still have access to a set amount every month. Side note, we would prefer she go to college and will encourage it, but her dad didn't go to college and did well as an artist, and we see that she has his talents, so we just want to be supportive of any decision she makes. When she turns 21, she will have access to the full trust to use as she wishes, but we will do our best to ensure she is responsible with it when the time comes. At the end of the day, she will be an adult, and we have to trust she will be responsible when she has access to the money. I also want to say we didn't come to this decision on our own. We consulted with all 4 sets of grandparents, and this was what we all thought was the best approach, as well as help from a lawyer. When Amy is a little older, we will discuss this with her. But for now, she's still so young and dealing with a lot. Some nights I sleep with her in bed, with my fiancé sleeping on the floor by the bed, because she cries herself to sleep and she feels so alone. I don't know if that feeling will go away anytime soon. I think about how I'm in my 30s and I still can't imagine not having my parents. So I really have no idea what she is feeling. Best I can hope for is that I can help the pain just a little bit. Amy's mom was going to be my bridesmaid, and I was going to have Amy be the flower girl, but I think I'm going to ask Amy if she would prefer to be my bridesmaid. Amy looks so much like both her parents, and I see so much of their personalities in her. A part of me feels like having her up there with me will make me feel like her parents are up there with me too. And I never once imagined getting married without either of them by my side. All planning stopped the moment of the accident for that reason. And even now, typing this as I'm crying that they won't actually be there. But also, that's a lot of pressure to put on Amy. I don't want to tell her all that. I do want to give her the option to be my bridesmaid if she wants. And if she doesn't want to, then that's also okay because she is still going to be part of my wedding. I won't even bring this up for a while because I still am not in the headspace to plan the wedding right now. There is no real reason why I'm posting this. I tried a couple times to write out what happened, but each time I broke down or deleted it. I think I just want to vent or just feel better. Maybe to get validation that we are doing the right thing and not messing Amy up. One step at a time, I guess. Edit. I'm seriously overwhelmed by all the comments. I was trying to respond to every single one, but now I'm falling behind because there are so many LOL. If I don't respond to your comment, still know that I really appreciate your support/love/kind words. I wish I could hug every single one of you. I don't know what I was looking for posting here, but I feel immensely grateful I did, because you have all shown me so much love and support. I'm just a crying mess, but just know it's definitely happy tears because I now feel like I am doing the right thing for Amy. Thank you all so much. Less than 3 update. It's been a while, and people keep reaching out to check in, which I sincerely appreciate. So an update might be warranted. It won't be exciting at all, lol. Just where we are all at right now. Side note, I wasn't sure if I gave my fiancé a name in my previous posts, but I will refer to him as David moving forward. And my best friend's name moving forward is Leo. First, I want to thank this community for the kind words of encouragement and concern for Amy. It's heartwarming, to say the very least, to receive such support from strangers. There were so many comments that I got very overwhelmed and stopped responding, but I read every single one. And even if I didn't respond, I truly appreciate every single one of you. I just get really shy after a certain point, even though this is all anonymous, lol. Second, a lot of people were really focused on the trust. I commented on my previous post about it, so I'll add it here. Trust me, we are aware that 21 is still mentally really young, haha. We consulted with all the grandparents regarding the trust, and most of them wanted to give her a lump sum at 18. The compromise was that the lump sum would be given at 21, with her having a sort of allowance from 18 to 21. I will also have her set up with our lawyer and financial advisor when she turns 18. Plus, myself and my fiancé will always do our best to guide her, but she will be an adult at that point. So all we can do is give her all the tools to help make the best decisions for herself when the time comes. We can always change the rules of the trust if need be, but that is something that will be decided as a family. Right now, we are happy with where we landed. Now on to the update. David is my husband now. One night we were talking and we just didn't feel comfortable having the wedding this year, but we also didn't want to wait to be married. Life is short, so we went to the courthouse with Amy to make it official. We will be having the wedding next year to make it official, lol. We are all still in therapy, both individual and family. We are also in a support group for children who have lost parents, and Amy seems to be doing really well in it. Amy is now 12. It was her first birthday without her parents, so I wish I could say it was an extremely happy occasion. This year has been a lot of firsts without them, and we will continue to have a lot of firsts without them. But she swears that despite crying a lot of the day, understandably, she wouldn't have been able to plan the day better herself. So a bittersweet success. Special mention. Amy has a best friend of 5 to 6 years, Monica, who I've known since she was 7. Monica is lovely. She's a bit sarcastic, which I find hilarious, and is a kind soul. According to Amy, she tried to distance herself from Monica because she felt like she was too sad to be around and didn't want to be a burden. Monica busted herself over to our house and basically told Amy to knock it out and that she decides when Amy is too much, which will apparently never happen because Amy is her favorite person. I was always Team Monica, but that day solidified the fact that I would ride at dawn for her. We ended up getting Amy 2 rabbits as well. Why rabbits, you ask? Well, her parents' nickname for her was Bunny, and we were already planning on getting some kind of animal companion, so we landed on bunnies. Plus, our state has an overwhelming number of rabbits, and most get euthanized due to overpopulation, so they need all the love they can get. Why 2 bunnies? Bunnies are social creatures and are happiest being raised with another rabbit. Amy is obsessed with paint and chalk. Haha. After showing her the ropes and doing her own research, she has completely taken over any and all care for them despite us offering several times. She even has a space in the fridge labeled buns for the fresh greens that she cuts up every morning to give them. She decorated an area in her room for them, because they will be in her room at night, but they are allowed to venture around the house during the day after we spent a full day bunny proofing. Amy's been very happy with them, and Paint even sleeps on the bed with her now, with Chalk only sometimes sleeping with her. It also means we are no longer sleeping in her room with her, and only a handful of times has she crawled into bed with us, like on Mother's Day and Father's Day. We are leaving for a trip to Europe/Asia next week. David and I love to travel, but I actually start to get irritable when I don't travel for a while. David jokes that I always need my fix. It's a 3-week trip starting in Poland to spend time with David's family for a week and then to Asia from there. The plan was for Amy to be with us for the full 3 weeks, but she really pushed back, and we were confused about that. She only wants to go for the first week in Poland to meet David's family. Side note, his family adore her and have planned a "You're stuck with us forever" party for her. Whenever we asked about the rest of the trip, she said she didn't want to go and that we should go without her. If she didn't want to do something, we get it and don't want to force her. Understanding the why was tough for me. Does she not like traveling? No, she enjoys it. Is she afraid? No, she likes flying and thinks it's cool to see new places. Is it too much time away from home? No, she's cool with long trips. So why doesn't she want to go? She just doesn't. In family therapy, the trip came up. Finally, her reason for not wanting to join us on the rest of the trip came up. She feels like David and I are prioritizing her too much and taking her feelings into account more than we should. She feels like we aren't prioritizing our relationship or even our other friends/family. She feels like she's preventing us from doing stuff because we keep thinking about her first. I want to make this very clear. While David and I are prioritizing her more and 100% take her feelings into account when we plan things, we still very much prioritize each other. We have a date night every week. If we do cancel, we make up for it. Our date nights did stop for a few months after Amy moved in with us, but that was just because we needed to adjust. She spends the night at Monica's every week, and that's usually when we do date night, and we do the same for Monica's mom every week. We also go to the gym together every morning. I'm not a morning person, but I am for David, and we communicate throughout the day. But she made a very good point about our friends and other family. It's been hard to balance a kid in the mix, and we have been a little neglectful. Sure, our closest friends/family usually just come over to our house and aren't shy about being themselves around Amy, but there are events that we have missed by prioritizing Amy. I'm not saying that we made the wrong choice, but she highlighted that we need to start taking care of our other relationships now that she feels safer with us. Amy really is the greatest kid. Even though it hasn't been a full year since they have passed, she has changed so much. I wish she didn't have to grow up as fast as she did, and I hope we can preserve some of her childhood, but I know her parents would be so proud of her. I'm so damn proud of her. We tell her all the time, but I really don't think she grasps just how proud we all are of her. Anyways, haha, we still stressed we would love to have her on the trip with us. But she said we should have that time for ourselves, so we decided to leave this trip as is. My parents will come with us for that first week in Poland, and they will fly back home with Amy, with her floating between all the grandparents while David and I are traveling. We will video call her every day to check in. We are already making more of an effort with our friends and family. Amy is also spending more nights with her many grandparents, which she has been loving because I'm really lucky that I have 4 nanas and 4 papas. David is absolutely killing the parent role too. He has been more hands-on with Amy's schooling. He's the one who has been handling teacher/school stuff and pickups. I do drop-offs. He has the contact information and has made better connections with the other parents of all the kids in her class, plus all her friends' parents. He's been joking about joining the school's version of the PDA, but I don't think he's joking, lol. He's definitely the extrovert of the two of us, so it isn't surprising. I could probably go on for pages and pages about David just being the absolute best, but I already feel like this update is super long, haha. I don't know how I would have done any of this without his love and support. While neither one of us is perfect, we are perfect for each other. It's honestly crazy to me that I can still love him more and more each day. Like, how is that actually even physically possible to love someone this much? Is this even healthy? I digress, lol. I think I'm doing okay. Just like Amy is dealing with a lot of firsts without her parents, so am I. At first, I didn't think it was fair for me to even grieve since Amy's situation is just on a whole other level than my own. But my therapist had to remind me not to compare my grief with hers because it is just different. I sometimes imagine what my conversation with Leo would have been like if I told him I'm adopting this 11-12-year-old girl because her parents were my closest friends. He always understood why I didn't want kids, and he was so supportive about it when others disregarded my feelings. I wonder if he would have talked me out of it or if he would have encouraged me to do it. He 100% would have been part of the village of people supporting me, whether he agreed with my decision or not. I just wish I knew what his thoughts would be about this whole thing. Sigh. I miss them both so damn much. But I'm also really lucky to have David and Amy. I don't know who said it, but they said it best. If you want the rainbow, you got to put up with the rain. Now on to the next story. Story 4. My cousin begged my daughter to do an aerial performance at her wedding, while approving everything. Then, she publicly humiliated her on Facebook for stealing her spotlight. I hope this is okay to share here. The reason I'm posting is because of my daughter, who's been hurting in the aftermath of a recent performance. I'm sorry in advance for how long this turned out, but any advice from fellow aerialists would be greatly appreciated. My cousin, Dana, not her real name, had her wedding 2 weeks ago, and she asked if my daughter could perform at her reception. My daughter, Jane, also a fake name, has practiced Silk/Lyra for the past few years at a nearby circus studio, and she's also performed with Slash through the studio at small gigs. She hopes to continue into adulthood and become a professional teacher, but this recent incident has shaken her confidence. She has a private Instagram to document her progress/performances, and I only post certain performances on my Facebook. Her first gig with the studio and her first recital, to name a few, we're proud of. Some of our relatives saw her performances through my socials, and they watched her perform at the studio's Christmas recital when we hosted Christmas at our home a few years back. Something that surprised her was when they visited early to see her. I love how they coordinated that, and Jane said it was her loudest cheering section to date. Dana was one of the relatives who came up early to see her Christmas recital, and she's always been super supportive. She asked me if Jane would be willing to perform at the reception, and I asked on her behalf. Jane was honored and excited when I did, and we already had a portable rig for her too, though we ended up renting a taller one from her studio. Dana got the idea from a YouTube video featuring an aerialist who performed at a wedding reception, and she showed us while requesting white silks and a white outfit. We scoped out the venue and purchased white silks along with a white costume that Dana approved of, and Jane was really excited throughout. Jane even worked on choreography to a song that Dana requested, and she put a lot of time into it, even asking one of her coaches to help her with it. Dana insisted on paying her for the gig despite Jane not expecting to be paid, and she paid her a few hundred. However, Dana's had a change of heart. Jane received a standing ovation after her performance that surprised her, but we didn't know anything was wrong until Dana went on Facebook a few days later. Dana said she didn't approve of the outfit Jane wore and that she specifically told her not to wear white. She also said my husband and I pressured her to have Jane perform and that the performance gave off an unclassy vibe. Lies that my husband and I couldn't believe. We sent Dana numerous costume links and we purchased the one she liked. There was also nothing wrong with Jane's performance. Dana was one of the people cheering afterward. Jane received nothing but compliments afterward, but I'm disgusted that she had to see that post after all the work she put into it. The post also had comments disabled, for what it's worth. I called Dana to confront her about the lies, but she didn't pick up numerous calls. I then called her parents, who, like us, had received messages about her post, and they said that Dana was wrong. They apologized on her behalf and said they were also disgusted. Dana's mom also said that Dana vented to her before making her post a few days after the reception. Dana told her she regretted asking Jane to perform given the attention, compliments, and cheers she received for it. Her mom also said that she felt upstaged with Jane wearing white and having to hear how good she was. Dana's parents tried to call her after she made her post, but she didn't answer after their previous conversation ended with her parents telling her she shouldn't be bitter because she specifically asked Jane to perform. Dana's parents reported the post along with us/others, and we've told the truth to those who reached out along with a post to explain our stand up for Jane. We have text proof of sending costume links that Dana chose from. Dana's parents also requested to talk to Jane on the phone to apologize for Dana's behavior, and my husband and I told Jane that Dana was wrong and that we'll be distancing ourselves from Dana permanently. Dana's parents were surprised at her behavior, and we were too, having seen her grow up. Granted, we only see extended family for Thanksgiving and Christmas because we live far, but other relatives were surprised too as it seemed to come from left field. Maybe there's a side of Dana we'll never know from our limited holiday/milestone interactions, but our focus is Jane. We've tried to cheer Jane up by offering to take her to dinner among other activities. But she's been hurting, which is why I'm here. Jane hasn't practiced at home or the studio since the reception, and I don't want to invade her space at her studio by asking/telling anyone there in case she doesn't want anyone to know. She asked me to return the white silks and costume after being so excited to receive them. She also said she's going to take an extended break from Ariel to reconsider if she wants to continue. Aside from Ariel, she's taken a break from seeing non-Ariel friends too, choosing to pretty much keep to herself. We would appreciate any advice from fellow Arielists on how to lift her spirits. We remind her of how we're proud of her along with the many compliments she received. But she's asked for space and to not talk about it. We're going to respect that and let time do its thing, but we'll consider any advice from other Arielists who can relate to the time and work she put in. Sorry for this being so long, but we appreciate anyone who read and takes the time to reply. Update 1. Before I get into what's happened since my last post, I want to thank everyone who took the time to comment. 2 pieces of advice really stood out, and I'll get to them shortly. Since my original post, Dana's post is gone. I don't know if she deleted it or enough people reported it for Facebook to remove it, but we're glad it's gone. She never apologized to us or Jane or even bothered to call, so our position on being permanently done with Dana stands. My husband and I made a post addressing the lies she spewed about our daughter, and we shared photo proof of Dana's texts where she approved of Jane's white costume from links we sent, not to mention the song choice she sent us too. Better yet, Dana's mother reposted it on her account, which really surprised me. Dana's mother wrote that they loved Jane's act and that they disapproved of Dana's actions. My husband and I also made sure that Jane was okay with us addressing it on Facebook, and she said it was fine. Normally, I wouldn't use Facebook to address drama if aimed at me, but since this involves a grown adult attacking a minor, we felt the need to address it publicly because she disparaged her publicly, and Jane will remember whether we stood up for her or not years from now. I had a chance to speak with Dana's mother since my original post on the phone, and she spoke to Dana again since our last call. Dana reiterated how she regretted asking Jane to perform, but she harped on the standing ovation that bothered her the most. Dana told her that she expected Jane to get some polite applause, but that the overwhelming response really set her over the edge because she expected the loudest cheers to be when she and her husband entered the reception. But that went to Jane instead. Dana and her husband also received a great reception when they entered the reception, but Jane's performance did too, and Dana didn't expect it. Heck, even Jane was surprised by it too. She never received a standing ovation from a solo act before. But Dana's mother believes that if Dana had asked someone to sing who received a similar reception, Dana's jealousy would have been all the same. Someone suggested seeing if Jane would be interested in speaking to a therapist given how hurtful Dana's comments could be for a teen. And Jane said she's open to it so long as it isn't a counselor at school because as of now, she doesn't want anyone at school or her studio to know about the incident. And she vaguely told the coach who helped her choreograph that it went fine. We will respect her privacy request as it's her right to control the narrative. But in the same vein, I suggested therapy for Dana to Dana's mother since her reaction might be a bigger insecurity, and she said she'd ask. The other thing someone suggested was the possibility of Dana's husband or anyone making an inappropriate comment to Jane during the reception that made her shut down and not want to see friends or practice. Days before Dana's post, my husband decided to ask her, and Jane said no when he did. If something happened, perhaps she'd be more comfortable telling a therapist with time, but on the bright side, she said she might want to try a different Ariel studio because she doesn't want to answer questions about how it went or share a video at her home studio, so we will help her find somewhere new as she asked. We hope she doesn't permanently leave her current studio because she has friends and coaches who are supportive and she performs with that studio's troupe at festival gigs. But I personally understand the need to sometimes go somewhere where nobody knows you for a break, and we hope that that will help her. She hasn't said definitely yet, but if we do, we'll take her. She still wants an extended break from Ariel in the meantime, but even if, when she goes back, she said she may never want to perform again and would rather do it leisurely. One of the reasons she doesn't want to return to her home studio where she's a part of their troupe. She asked if we'd tell her troupe coach that she won't perform with them anymore if it comes to it, and if that's what she wants down the road, then we will. Hopefully, time heals this wound and helps her at least keep the friends she has there. But we can only hope. Update 2. December 24th, 2024. This is going to be the last time I update, and I want to thank everyone who gave advice. In my last post, I mentioned that Jane said she'd be open to talking to a professional so long as it wasn't anyone from her school, and we agreed to accommodate her. However, she changed her mind shortly after and said she wanted to talk to her coach instead, whom she had been brushing off since the reception and being vague about how it went. She and her coach put a lot of time into choreographing the act for Dana, and she didn't even charge her for the sessions to do so. Her coach is also part of her circus studio's performing troupe, and she has always been supportive and understanding. We supported her decision to talk with her coach, and they did in person. It was after they spoke that Jane spoke to me following her coach's suggestion to do so, and I'm going to be somewhat vague about certain details of our discussion. She also asked to speak to me first before we'd talk to my husband afterward, and that's what we did. Jane opened up about how Dana sent a private message to her Instagram the day after the reception, but to her personal Instagram and not the private circus one. Dana's private message was just as bitter as her Facebook posts, but much more hurtful. Dana called Jane derogatory sexual terms in her message, and I can't express how angry my husband and I still are. Jane said she was surprised upon receiving the message. Dana was always supportive of her craft, and she gave her a standing ovation along with her husband. Looking back, Dana probably did because everyone else was doing so, but Dana also wrote that she only received the ovation because they were family who were biased and couldn't tell the difference between a good and bad aerialist. Jane blocked Dana long before we spoke, and she said she was hurt because Dana was one of the relatives who came up for Christmas early when we hosted some years back to attend her studio's Christmas recital, which surprised her, and we all went out to dinner afterwards too. My husband and I tried our best to remind her that Dana's reaction was a reflection of her insecurities rather than anything Jane did. If the best man gave a speech that garnered the same reaction, Dana would have directed her vitriol at him. Jane said she understood that it wasn't her fault, but there was more in Dana's message that hurt her confidence, such as bodily comments that were disgusting. She said she may return to aerial at some point, but that she still needs time and is unsure about performing again compared to doing it leisurely. We told her, among other things, that we commended her decision to speak with her coach and that we'll respect her ultimate decision. Jane also said that she didn't tell us immediately because she wasn't sure if she wanted further drama with Dana if we told her parents about her message. However, after some time, she said she actually wanted us to tell them because she felt that Dana deserved repercussions for it. She said she was surprised that Dana's parents called her out publicly on Facebook without knowing about the message, so that made her feel comfortable with us telling them. Jane also saved a screenshot of Dana's message, and while we agreed to tell her parents, we suggested that she delete it afterwards because it's not good to carry around hurtful things. She's also still open to speaking to a professional about the other stuff in Dana's message that's more hurtful, so long as it's no one from her school. We are in the process of trying to find a therapist who can help with some of the infidelities that led to her shutdown in the weeks after the performance. I honestly cannot thank her coach enough, but I just want to touch on a few more things that were suggested in comments. I received a few DMs saying we were just as bad as Dana for addressing Dana's lies on Facebook, so I want to be clear. My husband and I rarely use Facebook, and if someone had started drama with me on a Facebook post, I wouldn't use Facebook to address it personally. I'd opt for a call instead. But since she disparaged a minor publicly with lies regarding costumes that we had text proof of her approving, we felt the need to post those messages proving that she signed off on them, and we asked Jane if she was okay with it first. The other thing a few people asked was whether her costume was potentially inappropriate. The costume we purchased came from a website that many professional circus performers use, including some who used to be in Cirque du Soleil and tagged the shop while wearing it on their socials, and we purchased other costumes from there in the past. Heck, some of their costumes have been used in wedding gigs by hired circus performers too. Jane's costume also received many compliments, but we're glad Jane realizes that she isn't responsible for Dana's insecurities. This was also Jane's first negative experience in her young performing career. Despite knowing Dana is entirely at fault, her words still hurt as they were close before this. Jane has kept in contact with her coach since, and she's even considering a different apparatus to take her mind off of Silk's that is temporarily tainted. We hope that time in therapy will help her with whatever she chooses, but her coach has also floated the idea of organizing a hangout with her troupe completely outside of Ariel, like a zipline/rope course day, to get her mind off of it while seeing her friends, and she said she'd be open to it. Dana's parents also sent Sherry's berries for Jane, which was really sweet, and Jane sent them a text to thank them too. Regarding Dana's parents, I discussed the private message with Dana's mother, and she was even more disgusted than before. She said that she and her husband would deal with it and that there'd be permanent changes to their relationship with Dana until she apologizes and then some. She also apologized to us on her behalf and said she didn't raise her to be like that. But for what it's worth, even before we mentioned Dana's message, she told me that Dana's husband wasn't thrilled with her Facebook post. Among other things Dana complained about regarding the wedding, things that I had no clue about. She also said she's not sure if they'll be together much longer due to other things going on too. But I'll keep this to Jane only and hope that she comes back to Ariel someday, or even a different apparatus if she chooses. Now on to the next story. Story 5. Parents adopted me as a child and took a DNA test. My birth mom found me and wants to reconnect, but here are her demands. I'm a 24M who was adopted when I was 6 years old. I've always felt incredibly lucky because my adoptive parents, who were in their late 20s when they took me in, have been nothing short of amazing. They've loved and supported me as if I were their own flesh and blood, and I've never felt like anything was missing in my life because of being adopted. Growing up, I had very minimal details about my adoption. I know that I was removed from my biological family by social services due to neglect and abuse, but I don't remember anything about my life before I was adopted. It's not something I've dwelled on much because I've never felt like I needed those missing pieces to feel complete or valued. Recently, out of simple curiosity, I decided to sign up for one of those at-home DNA testing kits. I wasn't looking for a reunion or any deep connection. I just wanted to know more about my genetic history, like why I was removed from my biological family, and if there were any medical issues I should be aware of. Honestly, I didn't expect to find anyone closely related to me, so it felt like a low-stakes way to get some answers. About 8 weeks after sending off the kit, I finally remembered to check the results, and to my surprise, I matched with my biological mother, BM. She had sent me a message saying she was overjoyed that I had done the test and that she desperately wanted to reconnect with me and the rest of my biological family. She mentioned that she's thought of me every day, that I was always loved, and even that I have a biological little brother who is very excited to meet me. Something I didn't even know. Her message was really emotional and, to be honest, overwhelming to me. She's a complete stranger, and reading those words didn't stir anything in me other than discomfort. I spent a lot of time crafting a thoughtful response to BM, explaining that while I appreciated her message, I wasn't interested in forming a relationship with her or any of my biological family. I made it clear that my reason for doing the DNA test was purely informational. I wanted to understand my past, maybe get some medical history, and learn why I was removed, but that was it. I apologized if my actions gave her the wrong impression. BM read my message and replied, saying that she'd be willing to give me all the information I wanted, but only if I agreed to meet her at a cafe to discuss our relationship further. I refused, telling her that I wasn't comfortable with a face-to-face meeting. I offered a phone call as a compromise but emphasized that I just wanted the information and then for both of us to move on with our lives. She outright refused to provide any information unless I agreed to meet with her in person and discuss our relationship. I talked to my best friend about this, and she sided with BM, saying that I was being unfair. She argued that by signing up for the DNA site, I had essentially opened the door to this kind of situation, and that refusing to meet with BM now is like playing mind games and leading them on. So, AITA for not wanting a relationship with my biological mom after I signed up for the DNA testing site? Relevant comments where OP has replied. Comment 1, NTA. She's holding your info hostage to get you to meet with her, which is her being TA. You were removed for a reason, and she probably wants to fill you with her version. Since you know her name, can you contact the agency that removed you to request the information? OP. I could have always gone through the route of getting in touch with social services and seeing what they can tell me, though I am not sure how much they can share because of data protection, so I just thought it would be easier this way. Also, it would have been nice to hear it from my family's perspective, if you get what I mean. Comment 2. As a fellow adoptee, I vote NTA without question. You don't owe her anything. I'd argue she owes you information, though. Something she did caused the adoption to happen, and she's awful for holding that information hostage. Your friend is completely in the wrong, and if they aren't adopted, I'm not surprised about their opinion. A lot of non-adopted people have really weird opinions on how adoptees should feel and act. A classical one being that we should all feel grateful for our adoptive parents because they saved us. No, they are not adopted, which, may explain their perspective. They did annoy me, though, calling me unfair for not having a relationship with them despite the fact it's not something I've ever wanted. It was unfortunate that BM saw I was on there and messaged me first, and I feel bad that it may have given her false hope. I wish I could have been the first to message to get it out there right away what I was expecting. Comment 3, NTA. Fellow adoptee here. I did meet my birth mother when I was 16, and I've spent the following 16 years regretting it. My BM is selfish and manipulative and pulled the same trick. I'll tell you everything when I see you. Nope. Do not engage. Half of what she told me was outright lies, and she's desperately tried to wedge herself into my life at every opportunity when I've made it clear I do not want her. How does it feel to be unwanted, egg donor? Welcome to my world. I'm an adult. I have my own children now. My parents were wonderful people. I didn't have the best life ever or anything, but I was raised by people who loved me and wanted the best for me. It's hard. Your BM has expectations and you have different ones. The thing is, she's being manipulative and unreasonable by holding the info you want hostage. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. It's not right of her, and it's not fair to you. I understood that what she would have told me wouldn't have likely been the objective truth, but I was interested in hearing it from her anyway. In some ways, I suppose I was a little curious about her and her life, but I didn't want a relationship with her at this point in my life. But that wouldn't have been me saying never. And she didn't tell me how old her other son is. But depending, I would have possibly been willing to meet him at least. The fact that she tried to force my hand has left a really sour taste in my mouth and has made the whole thing icy. I think I have decided I'm going to write her a final message about how I didn't appreciate being told I would only be allowed that information if I met up with her and discussed a relationship with her. I think I will say it comes across as manipulative, and that is what put the final nail in the coffin, that I certainly don't want anything to do with her. But does that seem too much? I'm not going overboard by saying that to her. Update 1, August 27th, 2024. Hey everyone. It's been about 9 days since I last posted, and I thought it was time for an update. I really want to thank everyone who took the time to comment and offer advice. I've read through everything, and it's been both helpful and eye-opening. So, after all the advice and some serious thinking, I decided to talk to my biological mom again, hoping that maybe if I explained myself better, she'd understand where I was coming from. Unfortunately, things went downhill fast. Instead of trying to meet me halfway, she just got more manipulative, insisting that I was being selfish for not wanting to meet her in person. She refused to give me any information unless I agreed to her terms, which was a hard no for me. I've come to realize that I was pretty naive to think that my biological family might be decent people after everything. I mean, I was removed from their care for a reason, but I guess a part of me wanted to believe that people can change. Looking back, I feel kind of dumb for even starting this whole journey. It's brought up a lot of emotions that I wasn't really prepared to deal with, and to be honest, I'm feeling pretty down about the whole situation. And as for my best friend, well, that's another disappointment. She didn't just side with my biological mom initially. She's been unsupportive throughout this whole mess. Even after I told her about the latest conversation, she couldn't really understand why I was so upset. She kept saying that I should just give them a chance and not be so harsh. It's like she doesn't get how hard this is for me, and I'm starting to feel like she never really did. It's tough because I've always considered her one of my closest friends. But right now, I'm not sure she's someone I can rely on. After all this, I decided to sit down with my adoptive parents and talk everything over with them. I hadn't really opened up to them about how deep this was affecting me, but they were amazing as always. They were upset when they heard how my biological mom was acting, and they reassured me that none of this is my fault. They reminded me that there's a reason I was removed from that situation, and it's not on me to fix it or make things right with people who've clearly not changed. Talking with them made me realize just how lucky I am to have them. They've been there for me every step of the way, and they made it clear that whatever happens, they're my real family, the ones who've loved and supported me no matter what. It's hard not to feel down after everything that's happened, but having them in my corner makes it a bit easier to cope. Honestly, I regret even starting this whole DNA journey. It's brought up more pain than I expected, and I can't help but wish I just left the past where it belongs. But at the same time, I'm grateful that it's reminded me of how blessed I am to have my adoptive parents. They're the ones who've always been there for me, and I couldn't ask for a better family. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to focus on the people who truly care about me and let go of the rest. It's not easy, but I know I'm on the right path. Thanks again to everyone who reached out. It's really helped me feel less alone in all this. Take care, everyone. Update 2, August 27th, 2024. Hey everyone, I've been thinking a lot about my family today, especially after everything that's been going on lately. It got me reminiscing about some of the best moments I've had with them, and there's one memory that stands out. Something from when I was still a kid that I'll never forget. I must have been about 8 years old, just a couple of years after I was adopted. It was around Christmas time, and I remember feeling nervous because it was only my second Christmas with my adoptive parents. Holidays always make me feel weird, even now. Anyway, my dad's friend owned a Christmas tree farm, and that year my mom and dad decided to take me to pick our Christmas tree. We spent what felt like hours walking through rows and rows of trees. My parents kept asking me which one I liked best, and I remember feeling so much pressure, like I had to pick the absolute best one or else I'd ruin Christmas. But they were so patient, letting me take my time. Finally, I pointed out a tree. Honestly, it looked like every other one to me, but my parents made a huge deal out of it. My dad knelt down to start sawing, and I remember him pretending to struggle, saying, "Oh no, I think this tree might be too strong for me." My dad made me come over and help him, saying he couldn't do it alone. So there I was, this little 8-year-old pretending to help my dad saw down this tree. Of course, I wasn't actually doing anything, but they made me feel like I was the strongest kid in the world. When the tree finally fell, my dad swept me up in his arms and spun me around, saying, "We did it!" After we got home and set up the tree, my mom brought out these old boxes full of ornaments. She told me that we were going to start a new tradition. Every year, we'd each pick out one new ornament to add to the tree, something that represented something special from that year. That night, they handed me my very first ornament, a little wooden bear holding a heart with the word family carved into it. My mom said, "This one's for you, because you made our family complete." I remember holding that ornament, feeling this huge wave of love and belonging that I'd never really felt before. At the time, I don't think it even hit me how impactful that was, how that moment defines the way I look at myself today. I was part of a loving family. I was their family. Every Christmas after that, we'd pull out that little wooden bear and hang it up first. It became our tradition. The reason I've been thinking about this memory today is because it's a reminder of how lucky I am to have the parents I do. They didn't just give me a home. They gave me a sense of belonging, and they gave me love. Even with everything that's been going on, I know that I've got something really special, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Anyway, thanks for letting me share this. I just needed to remind myself how amazing my family is, and I hope it brings a smile to your face like it does to mine. Now on to the next story. Story 6. I went into labor on my sister-in-law's wedding day, but my mother-in-law locked me in a bathroom to keep me from stealing attention. A few hours later, I awoke in the hospital, and my mother-in-law begged me not to file charges. But oh boy, her face became pale when my spouse said this. My husband, Rick, 30, and I, 29, were blessed with a daughter 2 weeks ago. This is our first child, and we're understandably thrilled. We've been quite busy, and we're still adjusting to being parents. It's a difficult change for both of us, but we're doing our best. We don't have much support because of what happened on the day our daughter, May, was born. It was one of the most horrible experiences I've ever had, and I doubt I'll ever forget it. Even the joy of May's arrival is insufficient to help me overcome the paralyzing terror I felt that day. I believe I would have died if not for my husband's immediate assistance. Despite the sad tragedy, I believe that because it involves family, we should be a little kinder to them because May is the first kid in the family. But I'm unsure, and my judgment is muddled by all these hormones and infant obligations, which is why I've turned to Reddit for assistance. Please bear with me while I tell this lengthy and multi-part story. Rick has two younger sisters, Anna and Emily. Anna is 28, while Emily is 24. I have a pretty excellent relationship with both of them, and I don't believe there's any hostility between us. We aren't close because we're all busy with our careers and don't get together very often. Emily doesn't even reside in the same city as us, but we try to catch up and stay in touch through messages or phone conversations. Rachel, Rick's 53-year-old mother-in-law, is another significant figure in Rick's family in this story. While I get along well with Anna and Emily, Rachel is a completely different story. We don't always agree, and I believe she has issues with everyone, not just me. She's the biggest control freak you can imagine, and she won't stop. She wants things to proceed according to her wishes and desires. Her 3 children often accept her requests because she reared them after their father abandoned them, so they strive to make things simpler for both her and themselves. Furthermore, if someone dares to demand anything other than what she wants, she reacts, which can range from disapproval and moping to a full-fledged meltdown complete with tears and tantrums. Dealing with her is challenging, so I try to avoid her whenever possible. Rick gets this. He understands that his mother is troublesome, so he lets me keep my distance and deal with her as I see fit. On my end, I understand his feelings for her despite her domineering nature, so I let it go. She doesn't like me. Therefore, she doesn't interfere with my life, which works well for all of us. However, things spiraled out of control a few days ago, owing entirely to her actions. Now, I don't believe anyone will ever forgive her. Anna was getting married on May's birth date. It was a gorgeous ceremony, and her husband, Jonah, 30, is Rick's acquaintance. He proposed to her about a year ago, and Anna asked me to be her bridesmaid. I had accepted. However, when Rick and I discovered I was pregnant, I had to suggest that she ask someone else because I knew I wouldn't be able to handle it. This was about 6 months after the proposal, therefore only 6 months till the wedding. I was 3 months pregnant by then. I expected repercussions from her for backing out midway, but I knew I needed to prioritize. I was very worried and jittery before telling her. I believed our connection would be strained indefinitely. However, to my relief and astonishment, none of it occurred. Anna was pleased when I informed her. She had forgotten about her wedding for a long time. When I told her I wouldn't be available for duty, she said, "Obviously, I'll be taking care of you." She even pondered rescheduling the wedding since she didn't want me to miss it, as I would have if May had been born then. That didn't happen for a variety of reasons, and she probably shouldn't have done it in the first place. It was a close call in the end, but she remained supportive throughout. Emily became the maid of honor, and I knew the 2 sisters were preoccupied with wedding preparations, so I didn't trouble them much during the pregnancy, which was traumatic for me. Nonetheless, they kept in touch as often as possible and came over to encourage me greatly. I feel a little guilty for not supporting Anna on the most important day of her life, despite the fact that she supported me the entire time. My mother-in-law was the only one who was upset about the situation. I believe Mom was angry that I couldn't be the maid of honor anymore, which caused some disturbance in the wedding preparations. That seemed like the only reasonable explanation, and I understood where she was coming from. However, the antagonism, for lack of a better phrase, persisted even after Anna accepted the pregnancy and my absence as maid of honor. The bride was not upset in the least, but Rachel began antagonizing me from that moment forward. It was strange, but I assumed I was on edge because of the hormones, and she was on edge because of the wedding. I assumed that all of this was simply building false narratives in my head. I ignored her as much as I could, and things were largely all right. During the wedding, things became out of hand, both physically and figuratively. I was completely pregnant. My feet were swollen, my abdomen was massive, and I felt like I was about to pass out. I still wanted to go to the wedding because Anna wanted me there. I had asked her previously whether she wanted me there because I wanted it to be her special day. I informed her that the presence of a heavily pregnant woman might draw attention away from her, something I didn't want. Weddings are for the bride and groom, and I would hate to be the one to take away from that. When I told Anna this, she was outraged and upset. She stated she couldn't believe I'd be preoccupied with such trivial matters and miss her wedding. She said she didn't care about the attention or the limelight. All she wanted was her family to be there for her on her wedding day. She told me I needed to come and not worry about the drama. I knew she meant it. She's not one to mince words. If she didn't want me there, she would have said so right away. But she did, and she stated it emphatically. I felt it was my obligation to be there for her despite my physical discomfort. I felt I needed to be present for her on her wedding day. I'm not going to lie. There were a lot of people whispering, but I tried to ignore them because I knew Anna was glad I was present. That was all that mattered to me at that moment. Rachel did not say much to me and glared at me the entire time. However, I was too uncomfortable to notice. I didn't have the energy to cope with her or understand her passive-aggressive conduct toward me, so I just let her be. She might glare all she wanted. I was not going to respond to her. Then came the big episode, which stunned and terrified everyone around me. I started feeling apprehensive just as the ceremony was about to commence. By then, I'd already met Anna. I got up and went upstairs, believing it would make me feel better and that I'd return. When I did, Rachel had followed me without my knowledge. I went to the bathroom because I was sweating and feeling strange. Suddenly, my water burst. It was a literal flood, and I began to panic because, as much as I adore my daughter, she had picked the worst possible time to arrive. I couldn't think clearly. Thankfully, I noticed my mother-in-law in front of me. By then, I was crouching in agony. She raced to me, and I ordered her to take my phone and call Rick right away because we needed to hurry to the hospital. She helped me up and had me sit in the restroom. I gave her my cell phone. That is when she flipped. She claimed she'd make sure Rick arrived in an hour after the ceremony was complete, since she didn't want me to take Anna's attention. I asked her if she was crazy and told her I couldn't take this for an hour. I tried to grab my phone from her, but she locked me inside and took it with her. So there I was, pregnant with my child actually on the way, sitting on a toilet in a bathroom without a phone or a spouse. I'm not sure how I didn't suffer a full-blown panic attack. Thank goodness I didn't, since I'm not sure what would have occurred otherwise. I stood up and slowly made my way to the door. I began beating on it. I yelled repeatedly, but no one heard me because the restrooms were on the first floor, and everyone had already taken their seats for the ceremony. I screamed till my voice faded, but no one came. That was when I truly believed I was going to die and take my baby with me. I was weary, wet, sweating profusely, and unable to speak. That was the last thing I remembered. I'm not sure what happened afterward. I passed out from tiredness. I can't recall how I got to the hospital. I know I did. A few hours later, I awoke in the hospital, sobbing with Rick by my side. It took me a few moments to figure out where I was and what was going on. When I noticed Rick crying, I expected the worst. Everything came flooding back. My mother-in-law locking me in the bathroom, my crying, and I believed May hadn't made it. When Rick saw I was awake, he breathed a sigh of relief and began crying in my arms. I had no idea what to make of it and felt a terrible feeling in my stomach. Then I saw the nurse enter with a baby girl, and I breathed a sigh of relief. I really wanted to hit Rick for messing with me like that, but he said he wasn't toying with me. He was just glad I was okay because I was unconscious when he found me in the restroom. I held my baby for the first time, and I don't think I'll ever forget the feeling. I don't think there is a better emotion in life. Nothing will ever compare to what I felt in those moments. Rick didn't offer me any specifics at the time, which I appreciate because I didn't have the energy to cope with it. I could hear a commotion outside and asked him what was going on. He stated his mother-in-law was outside and wanted to come in to see her grandchild. I described what had transpired in full. I told him what she had done and how she had put our daughter in jeopardy for no reason. I also told him that I would never let her near my daughter. To me, she was dead. He said he knew everything. When he found me in that state, she broke down and told him everything. I told him that just because she broke down didn't mean I'd forgive her. He chuckled and stated his mother was dead to him from this moment forward, and he was going to file charges for endangering life. He stated that he would pursue legal action to ensure that she was punished for what she had done. When I heard him say that, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. I know he adores his mommy. All three of them do. After the trick she pulled that may have cost me and my daughter our lives, I was in no mood to forgive her. If Rick had chosen her over me, our marriage would have ended. There would be no turning back, and somewhere deep down, I expected him to choose his mother. Despite everything, Mom worked extremely hard to raise them. Maybe I didn't expect him to defend me the way he did, but I'm not complaining. If anything, it has increased my affection for him, if that's possible. I questioned him about the wedding, and he claimed it went well. Emily and Anna were waiting for him to call so they could come visit us. When I inquired if Anna was furious, he laughed and said I didn't have to worry about her at all. She had been smiling with pride and delight, saying that her entire family had attended the wedding and that May's birth was the nicest gift she could have gotten. I had tears in my eyes when he told me that, and I told him to call them right away. Anna, Emily, and Jonah arrived at the hospital shortly after. The best part? Anna and Jonah were still dressed for their wedding. Anna refused to pass up the opportunity to snap a wedding photo with her niece. I started crying uncontrollably. It was a truly heartwarming moment. After taking the image, I apologized to Anna for destroying her day. She hugged me and told me I was misinterpreting the situation. I had made her day. I told her about my mother-in-law's actions after we announced the pregnancy. Anna stated that the only thing I did wrong was not informing them sooner. Perhaps they could have put an end to her turmoil. I told her I didn't want to cause trouble, and Emily responded that any amount of difficulty was fine as long as I was safe. Even as I type this, I have tears in my eyes because I realize they love me like family. They saw me as more than Rick's wife. I was a family member. Anna is one of the best women I know. She is so safe and happy. It's no surprise she is where she is today. I don't see how Rachel is so different from her children. It's as if they saw her and concluded, that was not who they wanted to be. It's odd, but I don't mind. It was beautiful. Apparently, my mother-in-law was still outside. Anna had informed her on her way in that she would ensure Rick and I filed charges. My mother-in-law wanted to come in and see May, but I didn't want her anywhere near me. Anna stated we needed to protect ourselves from her. She apologized to me, saying she hadn't adequately addressed her mother's overprotective impulses or made it obvious that she had no objections to my pregnancy. She stated that if she had, perhaps the situation could have been avoided. I told her she had made me feel safe, and there was no way she was to blame. Rick was outside the entire time conversing with my mother-in-law. When I was discharged and returned home with May a few days later, Rick informed me what he and my mother-in-law had discussed. He claimed he had informed her that he would be filing charges and that she could deal with it because nothing would change that. He also warned her she was never welcome in May's life. She was not her grandmother in any way. She opted to endanger my and my unborn child's lives over a perceived slight that didn't even bother her. He also stated that the money he had been giving her, my mother-in-law was living off of Rick and Emily's money, would be significantly decreased. She burst into tears, stating she had worked her entire life for her children and did not deserve this. Rick said that while he recognized and appreciated everything Mom had done for them, she did not have control over their life. He said she was in the wrong and that he had been ignoring or making excuses for everything she did for years, but no more. When it came to May and me, she needed to realize she had crossed a significant line and demonstrated she was not safe to be around, especially because Anna had never had an issue. Rachel explained that as a mother, she understood Anna's reluctance to have me in the spotlight, but Anna overheard and ripped into her. So we will definitely proceed with the lawsuit, but Rick is managing it because I have a newborn to care for and cannot be bothered with the drama. Rick said he'd handle it. None of the siblings are willing to speak with her anymore. Anna has entirely cut her off, and Emily only speaks with her when necessary. Rick and I are clearly out of touch. I don't believe my mother-in-law anticipated this. Maybe she honestly wanted to protect Anna, no matter how twisted that seems. I am not defending her in the least, but I still feel awful for her since it all went so wrong. Now, part of me wonders whether they should discuss it with her because it feels wrong and horrible to me. I do not know. Maybe I'm not thinking clearly. I know if I mention this to Rick, he'll go crazy. He is irritated with her and is unable to look at her right now. I had not anticipated this, yet here we are. Update 1. Well, any reconciliation is out of the question forever. I realize I haven't updated in a while, but, well, I'm a new mother. I've been busy keeping both myself and my child alive. The good news is that May turns 8 weeks old in a few days, and we're all very excited. Anna and Jonah have been a great help to Rick and me. Emily had to return to work but still calls practically daily. May is truly the light in everyone's eyes. They adore her, and the group chat is filled with her photos. There has been no communication with my mother-in-law. I persuaded Rick not to press charges since we had too much on our plates, and it would serve no purpose. Rick was reluctant, but he consented because neither of us had the energy to do anything else. When we told my mother-in-law, she seemed grateful. I say appeared because the woman is indeed insane, and she showed everyone her true color shortly after. Rick and I awoke about 1 a.m. to a loud banging on the door. I assumed it was a heist, so I fled and hid with May as Rick attempted to open the door. I could hear shouting, but I didn't dare go outside since I didn't want May to wake up. It was my mother-in-law, and Rick said she was being insane. She continued to scream that she wanted to see May and that we couldn't keep her away. Rick claimed he had to scare her with the cops before she backed down. She was trying to force her way inside. We quickly notified Anna and Emily because if anything was wrong with her, everyone wanted to know. We were concerned, but in the end, it was for nothing. The following day, she sent us a frightening text. She began by claiming that we were being mean and horrible to her by not allowing her to see May and that we were punishing her for doing nothing but being a mother. There was more melodramatic gibberish in there, and her text became increasingly crazy. She stated that she had the responsibility of raising 3 children and had to always choose one child's needs above another. That's what she thought she had to do for May's birthday. She did not want May to ruin Anna's day. She conveniently forgot that May was a fetus and that Anna herself had stated several times that she had no objections to the pregnancy and wedding taking place concurrently. I still comprehended this section. What she said next startled me. She expressed concern that having May in our lives would make her less valuable to her children. When I revealed my pregnancy, she assumed Anna would be upset since that is how a normal woman would react. But when she realized how enthusiastic we were about both the pregnancy and the wedding, she wasn't pleased. She was basically indicating that she didn't enjoy how happy we were together, with and for each other. She wanted us to be jealous and competitive. She stated that when she discovered the due date was close to the wedding, she hoped Anna would be upset with us and that May would not dominate everyone's attention. But it did not happen, and everyone was just talking about May. She said she felt disrespected that a baby who hadn't even been born had stolen her position as the siblings' unifying force. She continued to type while I requested Rick to block her. I told him she was insane and dangerous to me and all of us. I've got a continual headache since I saw those messages. I can't believe a woman over 50 is competing with a 7-week-old infant. It doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't need to, because I'm done with her. I'm done making excuses for her actions and attempting to understand her intentions. I don't care if she ends up in hell. We forwarded the messages to Anna and Emily, who are also upset. They suspect she is experiencing a manic episode. Emily stated that she will travel down to have my mother-in-law checked at a facility. I think that's a terrific idea, but I'll remain out of it. This is insane behavior, and I no longer want anything to do with her. Update 2. We have a restraining order against my mother-in-law. She did not try anything else, but we are being cautious. Emily had her tested and met with both a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Everything is okay with my mother-in-law. She was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, but that was all. The doctor stated that there was no underlying medical basis for her behavior and advised Emily to seek therapy. Emily has since made no contact. She stated she would be eager to help if something was wrong, but my mother-in-law is cruel, and she can no longer stand her. I completely understand and share your point of view. If she had a psychological problem, she may have received my sympathies and help in a few months. But once that's ruled out, we know who she is. There is no way to reconcile it. This is why we sought a restraining order. May's safety is extremely important to Rick and me, and my mother-in-law has proven herself to be dangerous twice. Furthermore, she harbors animosity for May in particular, so we must take extra precautions to keep them apart. I believe this will be my final update, and I hope I never have anything further to say about the entire episode. Now on to the next story. Story 7. Ostracized over my inheritance. I sought peace but faced humiliation. Furious, I cut off my sister's rent, exposing my parents' manipulation. I arrived for a family meal, but they remarked, "We weren't expecting you. Go away, loser." I replied, "Okay, but from now on, you'll be paying my sister's rent." They begged, but it was too late. I did not want to go at first. Why would I, given what had happened in the previous years? But something inside me didn't want to hold the hatred forever. My father was turning 57, and while I wasn't their favorite person, I figured I could be the larger man and at least show up. Things had gotten awful ever since I acquired my grandfather's estate. Grandpa and I were close. I spent a lot of time with him while growing up. He was often telling me stories about his early troubles, how he had to fight for all he has. I believe he saw something of himself in me, which is why he left me a large sum of money when he died. This decision did not sit well with either my parents or my sister, Olivia. They were outraged that Grandpa had not left them anything, as if it were my fault or something. I attempted to explain that I had nothing to do with it, but they would not listen. After that, nothing remained the same. They treated me as an alien, as if I had stolen from them. They were frigid at family gatherings. Sometimes they didn't even invite me. I maintained my distance, but this time I decided to try and make things better. I purchased a bottle of my father's favorite whiskey, the costly variety he only drank on exceptional occasions. I even bought him a box of gourmet cigars. Maybe I was stupid to believe that a few nice gifts would change everything, but I had to try. When I arrived at their place, Olivia answered the door. She was the one person who had not fully shut me off. We weren't very tight, but we kept in touch here and there. "Hey, Jeffrey," she said, slightly astonished. "I didn't know you were coming." "Yeah," I responded. "I thought I'd show up for Dad's birthday." She paused for a moment before shrugging and letting me in. As I came into the living room, I noticed a group of family sitting, talking, and laughing. For a little while, everything seemed normal, but then I saw my parents. My mother's face became paler, and my father's attitude stiffened. The room became quiet. "You?" my father growled. "What are you doing here?" I tried to remain cool. "I came to wish you a happy birthday. I brought some presents." He scoffed. "We didn't invite you." My mom shook her head. "Why are you even here? You always bring trouble. Just leave." I could feel my patience running out. I'd come here to make peace, and this was the reaction I received. I glanced around at the other family. They were uncomfortable, as if they were seeing something they weren't allowed to look at. I remarked, maintaining an even tone, "I'm not here to fight. I just wanted to celebrate with you." My father snorted. "Celebrate? You're nothing but a loser. You think a few gifts will make up for everything." That struck a nerve. All those years of being treated as dirt, as if I didn't belong, came flooding back. I clenched my jaw, hoping to keep it together. But then my father pushed it further. "Get out, Jeffrey," he instructed. "We don't want you here." And that was all. Something inside of me cracked. "Fine," I replied, my voice frigid. "I'll go. But guess what? I've been paying Olivia's rent all this time because you couldn't be bothered to help her. Not anymore. That's on you now." Their expressions froze. It was as if they hadn't expected me to advocate for myself. My mother suddenly hurried forward. "Wait, Jeffrey, no." I interrupted. "I'm done. You don't want me here? Fine. But you'll regret this." I turned and walked out, leaving the home completely silent. As I approached my car, I could hear them cry from the front door, imploring me to stop, but I did not glance back. I got in and sped away, fury rising in my chest. I didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was certain. I wasn't going to be their punching bag any longer. The following morning, my phone burst. Olivia had called me 6 times, left 3 voicemails, and sent numerous texts. I ignored her at first. I needed some distance to clear my mind after what occurred last night. But curiosity got the best of me, so I listened to one of the voicemails. "Jeffrey, it's Olivia. What the hell is going on? Mom and Dad are freaking out, saying you cut me off. They're blaming me for everything. Call me back." I grumbled and threw my phone onto the bed. Of course, they blamed her. When things went wrong, they were usually the first to blame others. I still felt horrible for Olivia. It wasn't actually her fault. I had been assisting her with her rent for the past 2 years because our parents refused to aid her when she was in need. But I was not going to let them guilt me into continuing, especially after how they treated me. Olivia arrived at my apartment approximately an hour later. She did not even knock. She simply barged in. "Jeffrey, what the hell have you been doing?" she asked. "Good to see you too," I murmured, crossing my arms. "I'm serious," she snapped. "Dad called all the relatives and told them you threw a tantrum at the party. Now half the family is pissed at me because they think I'm the reason you stopped paying my rent." I raised an eyebrow. "Wait, what? He told them that?" "Yeah," she replied, throwing up her hands. "They say I must have sided with you against them or something. Uncle Mark called me this morning and asked if I was plotting with you. It's crazy." This was new. I had not anticipated the rest of the family to become involved so quickly. I leaned back against the kitchen counter, trying to take everything in. "Well, Olivia, I'm sorry you got caught in the middle," I told her. "But I'm done being their scapegoat. They've treated me like crap ever since Grandpa's inheritance. They didn't even want me there last night. I'm not going to keep playing nice when all they do is insult me." She crossed her arms and stared at me. "They could have at least talked to me first. You know I need that money." "I know," I admitted, softening my tone. "But maybe it's time for them to take some responsibility. They're your parents too. Why should I be the one to keep you afloat while they sit on their hands?" Olivia did not respond right away. I could tell she was split. On the one hand, she knew I was correct. On the other hand, she was torn between her allegiance to me and the pressure from our parents. Eventually, she shook her head. "This is going to get ugly," she grumbled. "I'm ready for it," I said. And things did get ugly, faster than I thought. By the afternoon, word had spread among the wider family. My cousin Megan, who always liked to play the role of mediator, called me. "Hey, Jeffrey," she said cautiously. "I heard about the fight last night. What's going on?" I gave her the outline, omitting some of the harsher aspects. Megan listened carefully. "I get it. You know, they say you ruined the party, right? But honestly, a lot of people are on your side. Uncle Rob thinks your dad and mom crossed the line, and Aunt Lisa told them off for the way they treated you." This was surprising. Aunt Lisa normally avoided family turmoil, so her involvement must have irritated her greatly. "Wow," I said. "Didn't see that coming." "Yeah," Megan replied. "But Olivia called me earlier and she's pissed. I think she feels like you threw her under the bus." I massaged my temples. This was turning into a full-fledged family feud. A part of me felt bad. However, another part of me felt relieved. For once, I wasn't the only one feeling their fury. Maybe they'll finally realize how toxic our parents can be. Later that night, Olivia sent me a lengthy text message. She accused me of being selfish and leaving her when she needed me the most. It stung, but I knew she was just acting out under pressure. I did not respond. 2 days later, things erupted again. My father showed up at my workplace. I worked at a downtown marketing business and was astonished to find him standing in the entrance. He wasn't even attempting to mask his rage. "We need to talk," he stated bluntly. "I'm working," I said, my voice calm. "You can call me later." "No," he replied. "We're doing this now." I sighed and led him outside. He didn't spend any time lying to me. "You embarrassed this family," he remarked. Do you realize how many people are turning against us because of your stunt? You think you're better than us now, don't you? Better than you? No, I replied. But I'm not going to let you treat me like dirt anymore. I came to your birthday out of respect, and you threw it back in my face. His eyes narrowed. You think you're entitled because of Grandpa's money? Without him, you'd have nothing. That's rich, I replied. You're the one who's bitter about not getting a share. This isn't about respect or family, it's about control. He did not answer immediately, but I could see the rage in his eyes. Finally, he added, You're going to regret this, Jeffrey. No, I replied firmly. You are. He stormed away without saying another thing. As I watched him leave, I understood this wasn't over. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was finally standing firm. A few days later, I learned of the impact from other relatives. Aunt Lisa called to complain about how my father had gone around attempting to turn the entire family against me. Apparently, he told everyone that I had betrayed the family and cut off Olivia as punishment. But to my astonishment, some relatives did not believe the narrative. Uncle Rob had told my father, You treated Jeffrey like garbage? Didn't you expect consequences? Lisa stated that several others were also beginning to see through the act. They remembered how distant my parents had gotten since the inheritance incident. Some of them were now silently supporting me. However, not everyone was supportive. Olivia had gone all in on our parents, and she wasn't holding back. She posted a passive-aggressive rant on Facebook, which everyone knew was directed at me. Family is supposed to be about support, not conditions. Some people think they can just walk away when it's inconvenient for them. Must be nice to live with no responsibilities. Some of us aren't so lucky. It required every ounce of willpower not to shoot back. My phone was buzzing with messages from cousins asking what was going on. The drama was growing like wildfire, and I was caught in the midst. Olivia returned to my house later in the evening. This time, she appeared fatigued rather than angry. She didn't even bother with greetings. Can we talk? She inquired. I nodded and invited her in. She sank down into the couch and moaned. This whole thing is a mess, Jeffrey. I have people calling me a traitor, others saying I'm too dependent on you. I can't win. What am I supposed to do? Olivia, I understand, I replied. But this isn't just about the rent. It's about the way they've treated me all these years. I came to Dad's party to make peace, and they humiliated me in front of everyone. You think I'm just going to roll over and take it? She gazed down at her hands. I know they were wrong, she said, but they're still our parents. I don't want to be in the middle of this fight. I could tell she was straining, caught between her allegiance to them and the comfort I had provided. I decided to be honest. Look, Olivia, I never wanted to make you choose sides, but I'm not going to let them walk all over me anymore. I've supported you because I care, not because I owe them anything. If they want to be responsible for you, let them. Her eyes were filled with frustration. You don't get it, she retorted. They won't help me. They never have. Without your support, I'm screwed. For a brief minute, I felt guilty, but then I remembered the years of insults, how they had regarded me like an outcast. I was not going to give up my mental health for those who did not appreciate me. I'm sorry, Olivia, I whispered quietly, but I can't do this anymore. She stood and shook her head. Fine, but don't come crying to me when this all backfires. She went without saying anything else. The following day, events took an unexpected turn. Uncle Rob called to ask if I could meet him for coffee. I agreed, curious to know what he wanted. When I arrived, he quickly got to the point. Look, Jeffrey, I know things have been tough with your parents, but I want you to know that you're not alone. A lot of us have seen the way they treated you. It's not right. Thank you, Rob, I replied, drinking my coffee. But I'm not sure what good it does. They're not going to change. Maybe not, he acknowledged. But I think it's time we stop letting them control the narrative. You don't have to fight this fight alone. He went on to say that other relatives were preparing to confront my parents about their behavior. I had not expected this. Most of them normally avoided family conflict, but this time they were taking a stand. That night, Aunt Lisa called me. "We just had a meeting with your parents," she stated. "It got heated. We told them they needed to apologize to you and start treating you with respect. Of course, your dad was stubborn as hell, but I think we got through to your mom a little." I was stunned. For years, I felt lonely, as if I were the only one who recognized how toxic my parents could be. The family was starting to push back against their actions. Still, I wasn't waiting for an apology. People, including my father, did not change overnight. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get weirder, Olivia sent me a message. It was short and mysterious. "We need to talk. Something's happened." Olivia's message made me nervous. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the best of me. I texted her back, "What's going on?" Her reply was immediate. "Come to Mom and Dad's. It's serious." Despite my better judgment, I drove over. I knew I was in an enemy country, but if something was truly wrong, I decided I should at least listen to her. When I arrived, Olivia met me at the door. She had a solemn expression on her face, as if she were bracing herself for something heavy. "There in the living room," she replied softly. I followed her inside and found my parents sitting stiffly on the couch. They both appeared tight, but there was also a hint of something strange. My father motioned for me to sit down, but I remained standing. "All right," I replied, crossing my arms. "What's this about?" My mother sighed heavily. "We didn't want to tell you this way, but Olivia's in trouble. She's behind on her rent again." My father explained, "We just found out that she might be evicted." I looked at Olivia. She looked aside, biting her lip. "We can't let that happen," my mother added. "She needs your help, Jeffrey, just until she gets back on her feet." I stared at them for a time, allowing the words to sink in. Something did not feel right. "How did you just find out about this?" I requested an explanation. "We got a call from her landlord," my mother stated hurriedly, too quickly. Olivia shifted uneasily and avoided eye contact. My instincts kicked in. She had lied to me previously, and the whole situation reeked of manipulation. "So let me get this straight," I said carefully. "You're telling me that her landlord called you instead of her, and this is the first you're hearing about it?" My father's face tightened. "Look, Jeffrey, this isn't the time to question details. Olivia needs help." I turned to face Olivia. "Is this true? Are you behind on the rent?" She hesitated before shaking her head. "No, I'm not behind." I felt my jaw clench. "Then why are you all playing this game?" Olivia grimaced. "They thought if you thought it was serious enough, you'd help again. That was it." I snapped. "Are you kidding me? You dragged me here with a fake emergency just to manipulate me into giving you more money." I turned to my parents. "What is wrong with you people? You couldn't just ask me like normal people?" "Jeffrey, don't overreact," my mother said, her tone defensive. "We were trying to protect Olivia. You're the one who cut her off." "No," I snapped back. "I cut you off. Olivia is a grown woman, and if she's in trouble, it's between her and me. But instead of coming to me honestly, you chose to lie. And you wonder why I want nothing to do with you." I turned to face Olivia. "You went along with this?" She seemed embarrassed. "They pressured me. I didn't know what else to do." "Well, congratulations," I replied bitterly. "You all just made things 10 times worse." I stormed out, but I wasn't finished. My rage only escalated on the way home. I'd put up with their manipulation for years, but this was the final straw. Did they want to play games? Fine. I was going to set the record straight. When I arrived home, I began phoning and messaging the family who had been in contact with me. I told them everything. How my parents had lied about Olivia being in danger, how they had tried to guilt me into assisting after humiliating me at the party, and how they had turned the entire situation into a circus. The answer was quick and nasty. Uncle Rob contacted me first. "You're telling me they made that whole story up? Jesus Christ, that's low even for them." Aunt Lisa became very furious. "I'm done with them," she said. "They've played the victim card for too long. They're toxic, and they've been dragging this family into their mess for years." Word spread immediately. Within a day, the majority of the family understood the truth. The tide had completely changed. Relatives who had been on the fence began to cut off communication with my parents and Olivia. Nobody wants to deal with their deception and manipulation anymore. Olivia texted me and begged me to stop. Please, Jeffrey. You're losing everyone. They say it's your fault. My fault, I said. You brought this on yourself. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely supported. The family finally realized what I had been struggling with all along. My parents and Olivia attempted damage management, but it was too late. Nobody bought their justifications anymore. It was bizarre. For so long, I'd felt like the black sheep, but suddenly I was no longer an outcast. My parents were, quite frankly, it seemed like justice. A week later, the aftermath was complete. My parents attempted to rally support from the rest of the family. However, their expectations had not been met. Megan told me that they had even sought out some of their more distant relatives, whom they hadn't spoken to in years, in an attempt to elicit sympathy. They called Aunt Marie, Megan remarked, laughing as she told me. You know, the one who never puts up with anybody's nonsense? Apparently, my father told her a sob story about how I turned everyone against them. He replied, maybe if you weren't such a control freak, your family wouldn't hate you. Then she hung up with him. Hearing that was more satisfying than I want to admit. But the big shock came when I discovered they were attempting to seek assistance from Uncle Peter, the wealthy individual who resided out of state. Peter had always been rather indifferent about family problems, but he was not ignorant. He had seen through my parents' games years before. I later learned that when they phoned him, he did not hold back. Peter told them straight out, Megan explained. Don't call me again. I'm not wasting my time with your theatrics. It was horrible. Every lifeline they attempted to clutch crumbled into dust. The people they formerly ruled had had enough. By the end of the week, my parents were almost completely separated. Olivia attempted to contact a few cousins, but none of them were interested in getting involved anymore. The entire family had cut her off. They're done, Rob informed me. No one wants to deal with their drama. It's just them now. Mom, Dad, and Olivia, in their little kingdom of misery. I nearly felt bad for Olivia. Almost. She had decided to side with them and support their lies. Now she was stranded on their sinking ship. A few days later, my father contacted me. I pondered ignoring it, but ultimately chose to respond. I was curious to hear what he would say. Jeffrey, he said after a pause, we need to talk. Do we? I said, my tone icy. We made some mistakes, he said hesitantly. But you've made things worse by turning everyone against us. Don't you think it's time to end this feud? I laughed bitterly. You think this is my fault? You brought this on yourself. You lied to me, you humiliated me in front of my family. Now you're facing the consequences, and you want me to fix it for you. Jeffrey, please, we're still family. Funny, I said. You didn't care about your family when you called me a loser in front of everyone. Now that you have no one left, you want my help? No, I'm done. He tried to argue, but I hung up. That was the last time I spoke to him. It was the last time I spoke with any of them. I later learned through the grapevine that they were fighting to maintain appearances. With their family ties cut, they had no one to rely on. Olivia, who had previously relied on my support, was now discovering the hard way that our parents had no intention of assisting her. As for me, I felt free for the first time in years. I was not burdened by their toxicity. I had my life back and the support of loved ones who genuinely cared about me. My parents and Olivia were left in their self-created realm. There is no one to blame but each other, and honestly, I was fine with that. Now on to the next story. Story 8. My daughter was invited to perform at her cousin's wedding, but was later smeared online because her performance drew more attention than the bride. My F49 cousin, F23, asked my daughter F16 to perform at her wedding reception but became bitter upon seeing the positive reception to her act. She has since posted about her online, and my daughter is considering quitting. Original post. I hope this is okay to share here. The reason I'm posting is because of my daughter, who's been hurting in the aftermath of a recent performance. I'm sorry in advance for how long this turned out, but any advice from fellow aerialists would be greatly appreciated. My cousin, Dana, not real name, had her wedding 2 weeks ago, and she asked if my daughter could perform at her reception. My daughter, Jane, also fake name, has practiced silks for the past few years at a nearby circus studio, and she's also performed through the studio at small gigs. She hopes to continue into adulthood and become a professional teacher, but this recent incident has shaken her confidence. She has a private Instagram to document her progress and performances, and I only post certain performances on my Facebook. Her first gig with the studio and her first recital, to name a few. We were proud of her. Some of our relatives saw her performances through my socials, and they watched her perform at her studio's Christmas recital when we hosted Christmas at our home a few years back. Something that surprised her when they visited early to see her. I love how they coordinated that. And Jane said it was her loudest cheering section. Dana was one of the relatives who came up early to see her Christmas recital, and she's always been super supportive. She asked me if Jane would be willing to perform at the reception, and I asked on her behalf. Jane was honored and excited when I did, and we already had a portable rig for her too, though we ended up renting a taller one from her studio. Dana got the idea from a YouTube video featuring an aerialist who performed at a wedding reception, and she showed us while requesting white silks and a white outfit. We scoped out the venue and purchased white silks along with a white costume that Dana approved of, and Jane was really excited throughout. Jane even worked on choreography to a song that Dana requested, and she put a lot of time into it, even asking one of her coaches to help her with it. Dana insisted on paying her for the gig despite Jane not expecting to be paid, and she paid her a few hundred. However, Dana's had a change of heart. Jane received a standing ovation after her performance that surprised her, but we didn't know anything was wrong until Dana went on Facebook a few days later. Dana said she didn't approve of the outfit Jane wore and that she specifically told her not to wear white. She also said my husband and I pressured her to have Jane perform and that the performance gave off an unclassy vibe. Lies that my husband and I couldn't believe. We sent Dana numerous costume links, and we purchased the one she liked. There was also nothing wrong with Jane's performance. Dana was one of the people cheering afterwards. Jane received nothing but compliments afterward, but I'm disgusted that she had to see that post after all the work she put into it. The post also had comments disabled, for what it's worth. I called Dana to confront her about the lies, but she didn't pick up numerous calls. I then called her parents who, like us, had received messages about her post, and they said that Dana was wrong. They apologized on her behalf and said they were also disgusted. Dana's mom also said that Dana vented to her before making her post. A few days after the reception, Dana told her she regretted asking Jane to perform given the attention, compliments, and cheers she received for it. Her mom also said that she felt upstaged with Jane wearing white and having to hear how good she was. Dana's parents tried to call her after she made her post, but she didn't answer after their previous conversation ended with her parents telling her she shouldn't be bitter because she specifically asked Jane to perform. Dana's parents reported the post along with us/others, and we've told the truth to those who reached out, along with a post to explain our side and stand up for Jane. We have text proof of sending costume links that Dana chose from. Dana's parents also requested to talk to Jane on the phone to apologize for Dana's behavior, and my husband and I told Jane that Dana was wrong and that we'll be distancing ourselves from Dana permanently. Dana's parents were surprised at her behavior, and we were too, having seen her grow up. Granted, we only see extended family for Thanksgiving and Christmas because we live far, but other relatives were surprised too, as it seemed to come from left field. Maybe there's a side of Dana we'll never know from our limited holiday/milestone interactions, but our focus is Jane. We've tried to cheer Jane up by offering to take her to dinner, among other activities, but she's been hurting, which is why I'm here. Jane hasn't practiced at home or the studio since the reception, and I don't want to invade her space at her studio by asking/telling anyone there in case she doesn't want anyone to know. She asked me to return the white silks and costume after being so excited to receive them. She also said she's going to take an extended break from aerial arts to reconsider if she wants to continue. Aside from aerial arts, she's taken a break from seeing non-aerial friends too, choosing to pretty much keep to herself. We would appreciate any advice from fellow aerialists on how to lift her spirits. We remind her of how we're proud of her along with the many compliments she received, but she's asked for space and to not talk about it. We're going to respect that and let time do its thing, but we'll consider any advice from other aerialists who can relate to the time and work she put in. Sorry for this being so long, but we appreciate anyone who reads and takes the time to reply. Comments from the first post. Comment 1. This is a rare story on this site where everyone except the villain does everything right. If this happened to an adult or even an older teenager, she would probably still be hurt but be able to see that Dana is the one with the issue, but at 16 she's still forming her idea of herself. It sounds like she's taking this all on as a reflection of herself. I'm not someone who can be in the spotlight. My desire to perform hurts my family. I would really consider therapy. You could say all the right things to her, and I bet you have, but at 16 it's hard to hear your mom. Alternatively, and I'm sorry to say this, but is it possible that Dana's new husband gave Jane any inappropriate attention that might explain why Dana is so upset when she presumably should have known exactly what to expect? Although it certainly wouldn't excuse it. If there were any opportunities for Jane and the new husband to be alone, I would really look into that also, because it would also explain why Jane hasn't practiced since the reception, even though the drama started a few days later. It is an extreme place to go, but I would just ask yourself if there was an opportunity for him to be inappropriate because she is withdrawing from her entire social life. When I was a teenager, driving up to the next city helped me sometimes. Want to take a drive? Is still a question I ask myself when I feel stuck and hopeless. Go to the big aquarium and get cannoli at the outlet mall or something equally random. Maybe she'll open up or get out of her head. Or maybe y'all will just have a nice day. Lots of love to you and your family. Comment 2. Jealousy is horrible, and Dana has just made herself look bad to anyone that came to the wedding. Also, just for reference, I have performed at multiple weddings and have always had a white costume. It suits the theme and is no way comparable to a wedding dress. Comment 3. I always see aerialists in white at weddings. Take comfort in the internet, OP, and hopefully they can use it as a defense with Dana. If she wants to be that way, just post the receipts of how she asked her what to wear, etc. If she's willing to say that for a 16-year-old or let it go, it'll pass, because I promise Dana will have some new crazy thing to do very soon. These types always do. Comment 4. The bride is petty, immature, and ridiculous. First off, you must see that. Help her see it too if she doesn't already. When people show you who they are, listen. This is a painful but valuable lesson that your daughter is learning very early in her performance/teaching career. Just like any obstacle or difficulty in life standing between us and the things we desire, she has the choice to either let it beat her down or let it lift her up and make her more determined than ever. If she truly wants this and does eventually go on to be an aerial coach and/or performer, she will face even more challenges. This is only serving to prepare her to face those. Making art is vulnerable. Sometimes people won't like it, but that tells you more about them than about you most of the time. Comment 5. Dana wanted her wedding to be all about her, which is fair to an extent, but obviously not to this extent. And I think she was happy to have a beautiful performance done for her, but forgot that people will congratulate the performer rather than the person who hired the performer. Given how extreme the response was, I would be a bit worried what someone else mentioned about the outside chance that Dana's husband said/did something inappropriate, but my guess and hope is it's just a general attention thing. Regardless, it sounds like you and Dana's parents are handling things as best you can. Defending your daughter but respecting her privacy and boundaries sounds exactly like the right thing to do. Well done, you. I would just continue to be there for your daughter in a low-pressure way and make sure she knows she has safe people to talk to whenever she's ready. Maybe see if there are any non-aerial activities any of her friends are down to do with her. Maybe something like rock climbing, which can feel less performance-oriented and attention-grabbing but can still feel fun for an aerialist because there's a fair amount of strength crossover. Hopefully she'll be comfortable with aerial arts again in future, but I think just trying to help her not socially withdraw too much would be good for her well-being for now. So sorry she's going through this. She sounds like a great kid and a very talented aerialist. Update. Before I get into what's happened since my last post, I want to thank everyone who took the time to comment. 2 pieces of advice really stood out, and I'll get to them shortly. Since my original post, Dana's Facebook post is gone. I don't know if she deleted it or enough people reported it for Facebook to remove it, but we're glad it's gone. She never apologized to us or Jane or even bothered to call, so our position on being permanently done with Dana stands. My husband and I made a post on my Facebook addressing the lies she spewed about our daughter, and we shared photo proof of Dana's text where she approved of Jane's white costume from links we sent, not to mention the song choice she sent us too. Better yet, Dana's mother reposted it on her account, which really surprised me. Dana's mother wrote that they loved Jane's act and that they disapproved of Dana's actions. My husband and I also made sure that Jane was okay with us addressing it on Facebook, and she said it was fine. Normally, I wouldn't use Facebook to address drama if aimed at me, but since this involves a grown adult attacking a minor, we felt the need to address it publicly because she disparaged her publicly, and Jane will remember whether we stood up for her or not years from now. I had a chance to speak with Dana's mother since my original post on the phone, and she spoke to Dana again after our last call. Dana reiterated how she regretted asking Jane to perform, but she harped on the standing ovation that bothered her the most. Dana told her that she expected Jane to get some polite applause, but that the overwhelming response really set her over the edge because she expected the loudest cheers to be when she and her husband entered the reception, but that went to Jane instead. Dana and her husband also received a great reception when they entered the reception, but Jane's performance did too, and Dana didn't expect it. Heck, even Jane was surprised by it too. She never received a standing ovation from a solo act before. But Dana's mother believes that if Dana had asked someone to sing who received a similar reception, Dana's jealousy would have been all the same. Someone suggested seeing if Jane would be interested in speaking to a therapist given how hurtful Dana's comments could be for a teen. And Jane said she's open to it so long as it isn't a counselor at school because as of now, she doesn't want anyone at school or her studio to know about the incident. And she vaguely told the coach who helped her choreograph that it went fine. We will respect her privacy request as it's her right to control the narrative. But in the same vein, I suggested therapy for Dana to Dana's mother since her reaction might be a bigger insecurity, and she said she'd ask. The other thing someone suggested was the possibility of Dana's husband or anyone making an inappropriate comment to Jane during the reception that made her shut down and not want to see friends or practice. Days before Dana's post, my husband decided to ask her, and Jane said no when he did. If something happened, perhaps she'd be more comfortable telling a therapist with time. But on the bright side, she said she might want to try a different aerial studio because she doesn't want to answer questions about how it went or share a video at her home studio. So we will help her find somewhere new as she asked. We hope she doesn't permanently leave her current studio because she has friends and coaches who are supportive, and she performs with that studio's troupe at festivals/gigs. But I personally understand the need to sometimes go somewhere where nobody knows you for a break, and we hope that that will help her. She hasn't said definitely yet, but if we do, we'll take her. She still wants an extended break from aerial arts in the meantime, but even if, when she goes back, she said she may never want to perform again and would rather do it leisurely. One of the reasons she doesn't want to return to her home studio where she's a part of their troupe. She asked if we'd tell her troupe coach that she won't perform with them anymore if it comes to it, and if that's what she wants down the road, then we will. Hopefully time heals this wound and helps her at least keep the friends she has there, but we can only hope. Comments from the update. Comment 1. I'm so glad that you and the rest of the family are backing Jane up as much as possible. Hopefully the support you show her now will eventually win out over Dana's hateful behavior. I also hope that Dana actually gets therapy because going after a minor like that was beyond out of line. Maybe the suggestion coming from her own mom will make Dana reevaluate and make some changes. But regardless, it sounds like you guys are doing a great job parenting. I'm so sorry this happened, but the absolute best thing you can do is just keep showing Jane that you have her back, and it's her decision what she decides to do from here. We'd be happy to have her back if and when she decides to return to the aerial community. Comment 2. I can see the positives in here that have happened since the last post. Thank you for updating. I have been thinking of you all. It does sound like Jane is still blaming herself, and that will need unlocking as that mindset could spill over into other aspects of her life, stopping her achieving her full potential. She needs to realize that this is bridezilla jealousy that got directed towards her, nothing to do with her, and if an aunt had received that attention it too would have got squashed. Perhaps angling her to perform is fine, just never a family wedding again, and please ask her again in a few weeks' time if any inappropriate comments were made or done. Sometimes it can take a while to feel comfortable enough to say it out loud. It's not uncommon for boys to take 30 years before they say something. I feel like her coach needs to know that the performance was amazing, but to know that there was fallout afterwards. They don't need to know exactly, but it will help explain the actions and ease the road back there for Jane. Please give her a big hug for me. Now on to the next story. Story 9. I fell in love with a married man while engaged to my fiancé of 6 years. Now I regret it and am trying to reconnect with my fiancé. We have been together 6 years now, and during the 3rd year of our relationship, I cheated on him with a close family friend. I had started taking him for granted, and it became easy to cheat because I didn't value the relationship. He broke up with me and we were split for months. The times I was single, I realized he is a great boyfriend. I begged for him back, and he took me back, but I had to promise to never speak to the guy again. I'm happy to say I never cheated since then and haven't been tempted at all. I understand how great of a partner I have. That being said, the guy I cheated on was a close family friend, and recently I rekindled our friendship behind his back. Nothing romantic. Have you ever met someone who is a terrible partner but a great friend? That's him. I hated the fact that I let a stupid mishap ruin our friendship. My fiancé found out and was angry. I apologized and we talked, and he needed space. He sent me a text of his demands to continue the relationship, and I copied and pasted it. His text: after doing some thinking, I can't trust you. Whether it was platonic or not, this is the 2nd time that I know of where I have violated my trust. The hardest part isn't this, but now I have to wonder how many times have you violated my trust or done something behind my back that I just don't know about. You claim this is it, but how can I believe you? I love you and want to work on this relationship, but it's going to require a lot from you. We are postponing our wedding indefinitely. When we first got back together, it took 10 months before I felt secure in the relationship again. I have no idea how long it will take to feel secure again. Eli, I changed the name. He will be blocked on everything, and you're to never speak to him again. This now includes family events. If you know he will be there, do not attend. If you didn't know when he attends, you are to ignore him. I have unrestricted access to phones, social media, emails, etc. Every password I want to know for any device you have. No hanging out with male friends alone. You are to be home by 1 a.m. if you do go out with your homegirls. There will be more, but these are my demands, and they aren't up for discussion. If you aren't willing to do it, then the relationship is over. Take your time to think about it. End of text. I called him, but he said he's not arguing with me about it and won't call me back until I decide what I want to do. I feel that this is extremely harsh considering the fact I didn't cheat this time. Ever since we got back together, I never cheated on him. The original poster, OP, believes that the punishment is too far. I think I was wrong, but I feel that the punishment doesn't fit the crime. I made a horrible mistake years ago. Being friends with someone doesn't equal cheating, even though I was wrong for going behind his back. OP is convinced to follow her boyfriend's rules. Okay, I'll do it. I just needed to make sure he wasn't going too far. But if this is what it takes to rebuild his trust. When commenters say that OP is on her way to cheat on her boyfriend again, she claims, "You don't think I'll follow his rules? Good thing I don't let people tell me what I can't do. I'm going to be laughing when we work through this. Get married, and have kids." Update 1. We had a really great conversation, and he was vulnerable and said it made him feel like I didn't value him. He was crying, and it really hurt me to see the pain I caused him. He told me, "Please let's not go forward with this unless I can promise that I won't go behind his back again, because he can't go through this pain again." I told him that I promise I will never hurt him again and will always be honest and upfront with him. Now we talked about the rules, and he said they will be temporary and will be adjusted when we go to couples therapy. Now it's time to put in the work to repair the relationship. I know it will be a lot of work, but I'm prepared. Update 2. So next month I'll get married this fall. I was with an amazing guy, and we worked through a lot of issues together. I thought I loved him, and I think I still do, but not in love with him. About 3 months ago at my job, we got a new coworker who is very handsome and extremely attractive. I mean, I have never been so physically attracted to someone in my life. We started to deepen our friendship, but romantic feelings came. I repressed mine, but to my surprise, he confessed his feelings to me as well. I told him we got to think about our spouses, but our feelings continue to grow. He told me he stopped being affectionate with his wife because he feels like he is cheating on me when he does that. He only wants to be affectionate with me. I've started doing the same thing and haven't been intimate with my partner. The big thing is a lot of people will be hurt when this comes out. He can't divorce his wife right away because of finances, but he will as soon as possible. I have to call off the wedding, but I really don't want to hurt my current fiancée. When asked about her previous infidelity, OP says, I have cheated before, and I'm starting to realize it's because I didn't understand being in love with the guy I'm seeing. We both aren't romantic with our current partners. I don't want to be with anyone but him. Also, he's going to divorce his wife. We have a plan for when his finances get straight. How is she justifying this affair? This is completely different. The first time I cheated was because I was selfish. This time it was because I fell in love with someone else. I didn't choose this. No one picks who they love. This whole experience has taught me how complex love is and that I've never been in love before. This is so hard on OP. That's not fair. I didn't want any of this to happen. It breaks my heart that I'm going to have to call off the wedding, but he's a great guy, and I'm certain he will find someone else. I wish I loved him or didn't fall in love with someone else because life is more complicated than that. I don't want to hurt him and have been thinking of the best way to tell him. You guys act like this doesn't hurt for me too. You guys are not being understanding or empathetic. When commenters tell OP she's gullible about the married guy, she keeps emphasizing, I'm going to tell my fiancé, but we can't tell the other guy's wife yet. He's trying to get his finances in order first. Update 3. I took everyone's advice and decided to end things with my fiancé. This was the hardest thing I had to do in my life. I know you guys think I'm a terrible person, but this is an unimaginable situation to find yourself in. I want everyone to know how much this hurts. I really wish I didn't fall in love with someone else. I wish I could make myself fall in love with my fiancé, but I can't. Took me so long to accept this. I hope you guys can understand that I can't convey this enough that I care about my ex-fiancé. I know this will be best for both of us, even though it's hard right now. When asked if OP told her ex-fiancé the truth, she says, I didn't lie. I told him the truth that I fell in love with someone else. I told him I still care about him. I keep telling you all that I care about him and would never use him as backup. He's a great guy, and there's a woman out there who will love him and be lucky to have him. There's no reason we both can't be happy. When commenters tell OP that there is no way the married man is going to leave his wife for her, she says, he is going to divorce his wife. Unfortunately, divorce is extremely complicated, but he said he will keep me updated. It's not just finances but a lot of other legal stuff. Since I wasn't married yet, it was easy to end things. For him, it's a lot more complicated than that. When commenters continue to call OP gullible, she says, no, I was very clear in our conversation today that I want this figured out by the end of the year. That's plenty of time for him to figure out finances and legal stuff. That way by 2025, we can just focus on each other. Update 4. I realize I treated my fiancé horribly and received my karma. My coworker and his wife are getting a divorce because she found out he was cheating with multiple women. Plural. He's a disgusting animal. He lied to me and others, pretending that we were the only ones. I ended things with him. I'm glad he's been exposed. Now, regarding my ex-fiancé, I've taken the time to reflect and realize he's actually my true love. I hate that I hurt him. I reached out again to him, but he said he will always love me, but he's done with me. That was painful to hear. I just can't get over what my coworker did in destroying multiple relationships, including mine. It's painful to see and experience. Edit. I wasn't clear, but I take responsibility for my actions. Just because I'm condemning his disgust and manipulative behavior doesn't mean I'm justifying my actions. My actions were horrible, but I've learned from them. Now on to the next story. Story 10. Girlfriend is always disrespectful to my parents, and they can't stand her anymore. This is my first girlfriend ever. We started dating 10 months ago after meeting on OKC and hit it off. We both struggle with social stuff. She tends to be better, but for whatever reasons, her social anxieties come about in the oddest of moments and the oddest of ways. It's been a mostly good ride with quite a few bumps. Quite recently, we've had some big fights over some serious and some just plain stupid. We're working through those. It's tiring. But the main issue comes to my parents and how they see her. Her parents love me and think I'm a great guy. Generally, they say hi and speak with them briefly, even with a language barrier. My parents don't quite see her the same way. Of course, my dad is very chill and my mom is the more intense one, but there always seemed to be a bit of friction between my mom and her. My GF has remarked to me she thinks my mom doesn't like her and is always judging her, which my mom has told me is not the case. When my GF comes over to my place, she sometimes says hi, but then we mostly go up to my room. I'd love to have more interaction with each of our families, but a lot of the time, she just rebuffs it with not feeling comfortable. It almost feels as though she wants to control or monopolize my time with others. My mom has asked me before what she does to make me happy. I've always felt she has, even when looking at it, we do have different interests in some ways. She wants to be a surgeon, I'm a software engineer. So where some of the real issues occur is on two particular disagreements we've had. The other day, my GF was over at my house. I had gone to look for something for her downstairs, like a hard drive or something. While down there, my mom is cleaning out one of our old file cabinets that had some of my stuff in there. As I was looking for the drive and checking on some pizza I had in the oven, my mom asked me to help her sort through some stuff. Of course, I'm going to help her. This takes about 10 to 15 minutes or so, and my GF is up in my room just by herself, not interacting with anyone. She comes down later, clearly upset, asks where I am, doesn't even look or speak to my parents, takes some pizza, and goes back to my room. I lingered down there a little bit longer before returning and having a fight with my GF over this. She says I left her up there for ages and was rude and inconsiderate. She felt I should have told her I was helping my mom out and that she considered this her time, because I was done with my homework and was going to spend some time with her. This always bugged me, but I agreed to let her know if something like that was going to change. This was also the first fight my parents took notice of. Another fight we had was recently. We spent a weekend at a hotel, and my GF left her car at my parents' place. It was on the street covering part of the mailbox but not enough space for the mailman to fully pull all the way up. He won't deliver the mail if he doesn't have space. My parents didn't notice until the next day, and my dad sent me a text saying, "Hey, could you guys come to fix this?" I thought it was a simple thing, as we'd go up there before we headed to the city later that day. My GF has a very different reaction. She got very grumpy at the request, questioning why my parents didn't tell her the first time when she parked. She felt it was fine and didn't want to change it. She said it was wasting her time and that she was annoyed by the request of my parents. Not wanting to fight again over something stupid, I said, "Okay, you can stay here, and I'll move it." She then had the gall to tell me that when I got to my parents' house, I should just move the car and not stop and talk to my parents. She also said she didn't want me to park it in my driveway when my parents said she could park it there. So I'm on the phone with my parents when I'm driving up. My parents felt very disrespected. They said she doesn't have the authority to tell me or them where she'll park their car on their property. They also said if she wanted to dictate that, she could come to move it herself. I pulled it forward eventually, but there's more. Later the next day, my parents stopped me to talk to me about my GF. They mentioned that they really don't like her anymore and are at the point where they aren't really welcoming her to their home. Some of the reasons they mention they don't like her: 1. They feel she's controlling me. They feel it's always me catering to her and doing what she wants and that I never get that same support. 2. They think that us being on the phone all the time, even when someone leaves because she wants us to feel close and together, is a bit weird. 3. They also feel she's a bit of a brat and childish, petulant, and she was really disrespectful. All in all, they don't feel she's the right one for me. What are my thoughts on this? They're not far off. I share the same ones. We've had a lot of fights recently, some of them based on how she interprets and reacts to things. As in, if I don't say something absolutely gently and with the nicest of tones and loving, she gets upset and thinks I'm being harsh. Others based on her thinking I'm doing something wrong or that I'm being silly. I've had those thoughts before, and I've squashed them to give her the benefit of the doubt. But the longer I think about it, the more I can see it. An example is my girlfriend isn't a big fan of my robotics hobby. She's told me she thinks it's boring and doesn't see the point because she thinks it's just playing with oversized toys. I was offended at this and said, "That's an example of not being supportive." And she said she was super supportive by going to 2 of my events. One which she was there and helped with the show and then left before it really started. The other because it doubled as a weekend trip for us. I feel at times I have to walk on pins and needles for fear of not offending her or starting a fight. She says I always start them. Ultimately, I think deep down I know this relationship isn't going to work out, and even with the counseling we're going through, this is bound to end badly for me if we continue. After all these fights, she mentioned she doesn't love me the same and doesn't know why she continues being with me since I make her so unhappy. But I know if I were actually to break up with her, she'd be devastated and angry and blame me for everything. This isn't healthy. I'm starting to have that come to Jesus moment about this relationship. I need help working out things. I need to know, how do I break out of this without blowing up spectacularly? I'm not here to try to force a relationship to continue anymore. I just don't know how to break it to her. Update. So before I get to the update, there are some things I'd like to clear up. I know that my parents are too involved in my relationship, and I address that more on this later. However, this was the first time I ever spoke with my parents about relationship problems, and it only happened because they brought it up to me. On the other hand, I've been in the car with my GF when she's griped about our problems to her mother and her close friends like I wasn't there. Of course, she did this at other times too, giving really personal details. She just didn't respect our privacy. Also, regarding the reference about us getting into a fight because she was in my room alone, I went downstairs to look for something that I needed to help her, and I also went to take out the pizza in the oven that she wanted. I told her this. She said I left her alone for an hour, and I was gone for about 20 minutes while checking out the pizza, looking for something and helping my mom while I was there. That was it. Also, whenever she's been at my house, my mom has never asked me for anything at all. This was a first, and it was because I was there next to her in the kitchen. Finally, regarding the phone call about the mailbox thing, some people called my parents controlling, but I wouldn't, because during our time together, they never called when we were out or whatnot. They didn't even see her car until the next morning. We weren't far. The initial plan was for us to go up to the city for a barbecue festival and move the car when we came back that day. But our plans changed when my GF said she was tired and didn't want to go. So I did. The cost of time for moving the car was about 20 minutes tops. It was a period in the trip where we had just come back from the pool. And with all that, let's get to the update. It's pretty short and sweet. I did it. I broke up with her yesterday. We actually had another fight yesterday, won't go into details, wasn't severe, but the fatigue of it made me think if we're fighting this much, maybe we're not compatible. A lot of tears were shed, and a lot came out from her that I was surprised to hear. In short, she knows she demands a lot of my attention. She says she's like a child sometimes, mainly because we're in 2 different phases of life. She's in college and works a retail job and gets to be a college kid. I'm a guy who works a full-time engineering adult world job. She said she struggles with that. She knows she's confrontational, but that she really doesn't mean to pick fights. In summary, she said a lot about how she's sorry and won't do things, but only now just realized what she was missing by underappreciating me and by me leaving. Don't worry, I didn't fall for any of it. I stuck to my guns and set them out. Not another chance, not one more month, week, etc. It's over. The next thing was also to tell my parents off. That went well. I was straight with them and told them that my relationships are my business and that they shouldn't be nosy. Basically, I told them in no uncertain terms they would not be interfering or giving their advice or input unless I specifically asked for it. They were very receptive. I also told them the details of my relationship are for me and my partner only. And yes, we did fight a lot. I know it's just not healthy. We need to be in healthier relationships. I might love her, but I don't want to stay in a relationship that's unhealthy. So now I'm single. But this relationship ended. There's a lot to take from it and a lot I can do to grow. Also, yes, I'm working on moving out. I've got a lot of friends in California, and I'd like to be there by this time next year. Thank you for all the advice, everyone. Now on to the next story. Story 11. I got extremely frustrated about raising my wife's best friend's daughter every weekend because her dad was useless. But something happened that changed everything. I, 31M, am married to my wife, Amber, 30F. We have a daughter, Emma, 7F. The problem is my wife's best friend, Jennifer, 30F, has a daughter as well, Harper, 7F. Well, Harper's dad is a lazy sack of crap and refuses to do anything with his daughter. He is the type of guy that brags about how he never changed a diaper. Jennifer and Harper are usually at Amber and my house on the weekends because Harper's dad is drinking and watching sports all weekend. On Saturdays, I normally spend all day with my daughter because I don't see her as much as I wanted during the week. However, with Harper being there every Saturday, anything I do with Emma, I have to do with Harper. Take Emma to the zoo? It's Emma, Harper, and I. I taught them both how to ride bikes, take them both to dance class, take them both to the kids' salon, and so on. Mother's Day was the last straw. I took them both to dance class Saturday morning. Amber and I also pay for both dance classes because Deadbeat won't. On the way home, Emma asked if we could stop to get something for Mom for Mother's Day. I said sure, but then it ended up I had to buy something for Harper to give to her mom as well. On the way home, I just kept thinking, why am I buying someone else's wife a Mother's Day gift? That's his job. A few days later, because I did not want to ruin Mother's Day, I told my wife that I am tired of raising Harper. Her real father needs to step up. I'm tired of it taking away time I get to spend with Emma. She said that Jennifer is her best friend and we need to be there for Harper. Now she is not speaking to me and sleeping in the guest bedroom. So, I just wanted to add some updates to questions I see. Emma and Harper are best friends. It was my idea to spend Saturday with Emma. I work more during the week, so I wanted to spend Saturday with Emma and to give my wife a bit of a break. We pay for things because Jennifer's husband thinks it's a waste of money to pay for dance class, and Jennifer can't afford to pay by herself. Jennifer and Harper do things with Amber and Emma 1 or 2 times a week together during the weeknights. Update 1. So, quite a few people have asked for an update on this situation. Sorry it's taken so long, but it's been a hectic few weeks. As for the updates, Amber and I are fine. Her reaction was based on poor word choices by me, poor communication by both of us, and some things I was unaware of at the time. The short version is things at home were much worse than I was aware of for Jennifer, and my wife had only recently found out how bad things were. Mother's Day was the straw that broke the camel's back for Jennifer as well. She was raised in a you must stay together for the kids' family. When Harper came to me for a gift, she realized that her daughter did not see her sperm donor as a father, so it was time to get out. Jennifer came to my wife to ask for help leaving because she had no family in the area, and Jennifer does not have the financial resources to leave on her own. So the night my wife was going to ask me if we could help her is when I told her I was tired of raising someone else's kid. That's what caused her reaction. The Saturday after our initial argument, Jennifer did not come over, and Emma went to her grandparents, so my wife and I had a long discussion about what was going on. That's when I found out all the stuff going on with Jennifer. My wife and I decided that Jennifer and Harper can stay with us for the time being. My problem was never with those two. It was that I had to take over for the deadbeat or deadbeat if you prefer. When we told Emma about this, she was super happy her friend was staying with her. We had a conversation with her that if she wants to have time with either parent without Harper, just let us know, and we do not want her to feel left out of anything. Last weekend, with the help of a moving company and some friends of mine, we got all of Jennifer's and Harper's stuff and moved it into our house. The good thing is we have a 4-bedroom house, so everyone gets a bedroom. The bad news is my wife's office got moved to the basement. Wish me luck. We shall see how this goes. Update 2. So, it's been almost a year since my last update, but with Mother's Day upon us, I thought I would post an update and try to answer the questions I've gotten. Jen and Harper are still living with us. As I mentioned before, Jen did not make that much money. She worked as a FLOTUS, frontline office staff, for our local health network. The good news is, with the current nursing shortage, they have a program where they will pay for employees to go to nursing school. She was able to start that at the end of August. The bad news is it's an 18-month program, and they only let you work 20 hours a week while you are in the program. So the arrangement is when she graduates, she will move out. That should be next May. The divorce with deadbeat is still ongoing. Once he found out he was going to have to pay child support, he tried every dirty, nasty trick he could think of. No idea when it will be finished. My wife is doing good. She's happy she is helping her best friend. But 5 people in a house is a lot more work than 3. Since she works from home, the pre- and post-school work falls on her. Emma and Harper are still best friends. Shockingly, Harper is doing much better in this environment than before. They don't do everything together anymore. Harper quit dance class, but she started with soccer. I think knowing that she will get fatherly attention no matter what she is doing has given her some freedom to pursue other interests. Harper has turned into my Lego buddy. Emma never had any interest, but Harper and I have done some nice sets together. Emma and I still have our daddy-daughter dates on the weekend. I still take her to dance class, and she started to take fencing classes. I don't know if I should be proud or scared that she could defeat me in a sword fight. I think I'm doing better a year later. That there is a plan with a timetable for Jen and Harper has relieved a lot of stress from my life. That I also don't have to see deadbeat has also been a relief. I also try to take a few hours a month for me time and to do my hobbies. The bad part is I had thought that I was done with the portion of my life where I had roommates. It will also be nice when Jen either gets her nursing job or gets child support so that Amber and I can stop footing the bill for so much. For all the people that said Jen was going to become our sister wife, or that I was going to cheat on my wife with her, or that she was going to ruin my marriage out of spite, or any of the weird sexual fantasies some of you people had, absolutely nothing has happened. Now on to the next story. Story 12. Caught an STD and found my wife's secret diaries. She has been cheating for years with multiple partners. I'm in shock, and I really need some advice right now. I'm a 40M, and my wife, 37F, have been married for 10 years, and we recently celebrated our anniversary. We have 2 wonderful kids together. Since the beginning of the year, things have been off between us. She's been acting strangely since the beginning of the year. Irritable, avoiding me, and we haven't been intimate much. Some days she's happy, some others fully irritated. Sometimes she's a great mother to our kids. Some other times she wishes they had never been born. Recently, I had to go to the urologist for a urinary tract infection, and the test suggested it might be an STD. This was a huge shock because I've never been with anyone other than my wife since we started dating. Right now, she's away at a so-called business seminar, of which I talked about in a different post. She has been keeping diaries for over a decade, and out of desperation, I read them for the first time ever. It turns out she's been having multiple sexual partners for the past 2 years. In particular, there was one affair that lasted over a year, and it seems part of her irritability was due to her lover moving on to someone else. I also discovered she has a hidden Tinder account and has been meeting with other men regularly. I am devastated beyond words. I feel lost and unsure of what to do, especially since we have 2 little kids who mean the world to me. I need some advice on how to handle this situation. Should I confront her immediately? Should I consult a lawyer first? How do I even begin to process this betrayal and protect my kids through all of this? Thank you for any guidance you can offer in this incredibly difficult time. Additional information from OP. Thank you for all the comments. As everyone's suggesting, I'll try to consult discreetly with a lawyer ASAP, gather as much evidence as I can, get the STD treated, and as painful as it is, perform paternity tests on my kids. To be honest, I'm a complete mess right now and cannot think properly. All kinds of thoughts are crossing my mind. Part of me still loves her and wants to forgive her. The other is just full of disgust and hatred and wishes I've never even met her at all. I wish I could just disappear right now. Update, September 11th, 2024. Thank you all for your invaluable advice and support. It has been a tremendous help during this difficult time. After my last post, my in-laws kindly offered to look after the kids while my wife was away at her seminar. They remain unaware of the turmoil I've been experiencing. I used this time to go through her diaries and take pictures of their contents. Each entry felt like a stab in the back, leaving me in a state of shock and disbelief. I just don't recognize anymore the person I thought I knew and loved for over a decade. To avoid going into too much detail, the revelations in the diaries would make any movie or TV series I've ever seen pale in comparison. She has been involved with at least 6 different men over the past 2 years. These affairs occurred not only during her so-called seminars but also during short business trips, dinners, and other supposed work-related events. Meanwhile, I was at home taking care of the kids and naively believing I was supporting her career. Some entries vividly describe how great these encounters were for her, all while expressing gratitude towards me for being a devoted husband and father, without a single trace of remorse. This lack of guilt and the extent of her deception make me question her emotional and mental state. While reading through the diaries, I felt an overwhelming sense of despair and was seriously contemplating suicide. In the end, I sought refuge with friends for a few days, as I felt I couldn't be alone. Otherwise, I'd do something that could never be taken back. They really supported me a lot during this time and helped me get in contact with a therapist. I'm now taking regular therapy sessions once per week. They also helped me in getting in touch with lawyers specializing in divorce. I'm also getting treatment for my STD as well. Returning home after picking up the kids from my in-laws was an emotionally devastating experience. I couldn't bring myself to smile at all. At some point, while contemplating all the possible ways I could end my life, my daughter just looked at me and saw my face. Without saying a word, she just came over and wrapped her arms around me. At that moment, I broke down, held her tightly, and burst into tears in front of her. She's my sweet angel, and the shame of having considered leaving my kids to suffer under their mother's disdain was almost too much to bear. For the first few weeks after finding out, I could barely sleep at all and had to depend on sleeping pills just to get through the nights. My motivation was at an all-time low, affecting both my home life and my work. I forced myself to continue exercising and found out it was the only thing that actually made me feel better during this time. To whoever said in the previous post that I shouldn't give up on doing exercise, thank you. You may have just saved my life. The stress intensified after my wife returned from her trip. Initially, it took all my energy to hide my disgust at her and the knowledge I had gained about her actions. I've somewhat got used to this now, but it remains emotionally draining. She did notice that something was off but still appears to believe that I am entirely unaware of what has transpired. Her lack of shame is staggering. Just recently, she asked me to buy her the expensive gift I promised her for our 10-year anniversary, for which I made an excuse to not buy yet, despite her going into another business trip just the day after our anniversary, which was described in extremely painful detail in her diaries. To make matters worse, she was even arranging to meet her latest partner on the day of my birthday. Nowadays, I've started to feel a lot better thanks to exercise and therapy. I had never been to a therapist before in my life, and to be honest, I am regretting not having done it sooner. Despite my wife betraying me in the worst possible way, part of me still thought that maybe all of this was my fault. Maybe if I had done this, if I had put more effort into that. I blamed myself for a lot of things. My therapist helped me see through that while I could have done some things differently. In the end, I cannot be held responsible for the actions she chose to take, and no one deserves to be betrayed in the way I was. If I'm at fault for anything, it's for blaming myself for everything, always putting her needs ahead of my own, and trusting her unconditionally without question. While it was extremely hard for me to balance work and looking after the kids alone every time she went on any of these trips, I always let her go after convincing myself that I was doing it for her, to support her business, to let her relieve stress from being at home, that this is what a supportive husband would do, and that if maybe I had a better job or made her happier, she wouldn't feel the need to escape from home. I'd be lying if I said I'm not depressed anymore, but I'm certainly doing much better these days. Nowadays, I feel more rage rather than sadness, and it is the rage that's keeping me going. My therapist advised me to channel this rage into the things I do, which has worked surprisingly well. I talked with 2 law firms about my situation and was advised to collect more evidence, which I've been devoting myself to for the past few weeks. I finished digitizing all of her diaries from the past 2 years, which were quite a lot. I got access to her computer and found just way too many photos, chat conversations, and documents to help my case. She's been posting all of her adventures into a very distorted private group on Facebook, to which I've also taken plenty of screenshots of. I've compiled a list of all of her sexual partners in the diaries, and I've been identifying them one by one on social media, etc. I've gathered everything I could on her current sexual partners and managed to figure out where they live and/or work. Now I'm debating whether I should confront them or not. The things I've read in these diaries are so bizarre that I thought maybe she was just writing material for some sort of twisted novel. That is, until I found all the other stuff on her computer, etc. Maybe I'm broken myself as well, but a part of me is actually enjoying this process of gathering all these tiny pieces of evidence and information, cross-referencing them with her diaries, and finding everything I can about her and her lovers. Part of me wants to see her burn on social media by posting directly everything I found out, since a big part of her business is centered around social media, but I'm refraining myself from doing so since this would also affect both me and the kids, as well as her parents, who have been nothing but kind to me since we got married. I'm also not sure if I should bring this to light to her parents as well, since this will probably devastate them. I'm planning on confronting her after talking further with the lawyers about how to make sure to gain custody of my kids. The country I live in has a rather unfair tendency of granting custody to the mother even if she's unfit for it, setting the terms of the divorce and child support. In any case, thank you all for the advice. A few weeks ago, I was in full despair and had no idea what to do nor how to approach the situation. Nowadays, I feel that little by little, I'm digging myself out of this hole I've been thrown into. Sorry if I don't respond to all your comments right now. My full attention is devoted to protecting my kids. Now on to the next story. Story 13. I child-proofed for my in-laws' visit, but my husband thought I was overreacting. Now he's gone further after day 1 with our nephew. Original post. I am 26F, and my husband is 29M. We have been married for 5 years, and we went to Berlin right after marriage since we both found really well-paying jobs. Meanwhile, both of our families, parents, siblings, etc., still live back in Greece, and we usually visit back occasionally. Now, my husband and I don't have any children, and we don't plan to have them. We enjoy buying expensive things and experiencing things we never got to as children, such as nice furniture in our home, going to exotic restaurants with friends, travel, hobbies, and generally just our lives with each other exactly the way it is. But that's just how my husband thinks. His family is very traditional, and every married couple has at least one kid. This time, my husband invited my BIL and SIL to visit us with their 3-year-old son for 2 weeks. This would be the first time they've traveled with their son, and the first time we would be hosting our nephew at our home. Now, our nephew is known to be going through the terrible twos and has been throwing tantrums and breaking things lately, so I did some child-proofing in our home a day before my in-laws were due to arrive. I removed all the glass and ceramic decor. I swapped out our linen tablecloth for a plastic one. I locked up our intoxication devices. I also covered our sofas with a plushy fabric cover. Our sofa's fabric is white cashmere because my nephew likes to snack while watching TV, and we can always take it outside and dust off food crumbs. I also changed my maid's schedule to come in 5 days a week instead of 3, so she can help prepare breakfast and make sure the house is tidy. However, when my husband saw all of my changes, he kinda got upset. He told me he felt that I was preparing our house as if we were hosting messy and uncivilized people and asked me why I don't make these changes when our friends in Berlin who have kids come over for dinner. He also said that he's never seen our friends make these sorts of changes in their own home for their kids. I don't understand this comparison at all. Coming over for dinner for 3 hours and staying at a place for a couple of weeks is very different, and we've visited our in-laws enough to see how chaotic their home can get to the point where my BIL and SIL keep mostly plastic items in their homes for convenience. Top comments. Comment 1, NTA. Instead of worrying the entire visit that their kid could ruin something expensive, the visiting parents can rest assured that the space has been child-proofed. As long as all the changes don't make the space uncomfortable, for example, squeaky plastic couch covers or all decor being hidden so the place is bare, I think it makes a lot of sense. You are making the visit less stressful for everyone. Comment 2. He told me he felt that I was preparing our house as if we were hosting messy and uncivilized people. He's quoting the definition of a toddler here. OP is voted NTA. Update 1. Same post. Edit. We hadn't spoken since we had our fight last night, and my in-laws are supposed to be landing in the morning. My husband brought food from a restaurant I liked and told me he wanted to apologize. He told me he overreacted because he wasn't admitting to himself how different his brother is as a person ever since he became a dad, and that his life is going in a very different direction with more financial hardships too, and that makes him angry and helpless. He told me he misdirected his frustration at me and thought what I did was really nice, especially since he is more finicky than I am. I tried my best to make him feel not guilty and responsible for the lives and decisions of other grown-ups, but I'm so relieved he came around on his own. Update 2. Same post, edit 2. So guys, it's officially day 1 of the in-laws visit, and my husband has now gone an extra step and put away most of the lamps in our house because they are glass and super dangerous for a toddler to be around. We have about 35 of them. We hate ceiling lights. When we picked up our in-laws from the airport and were driving them back, my nephew accidentally poured a bag of chips all over the back seat and floor mats. Everyone just laughed, but I know my husband was horrified inside, and now he's been vacuuming the back seat area for 2 hours now, lol. Oh, and in-laws super appreciated our baby proofing. Now on to the next story. Story 14. My love for my husband has been gradually dying since he forced me to choose between an open marriage and divorce. My husband, Leo, 34, and I, 30, have been together for 7 years, married for 4 of them. We don't have any kids, and we don't intend to. 2 years ago, Leo asked me for an open marriage. I was devastated at the time. I couldn't understand why he didn't just want me. I couldn't even comprehend the idea of sharing him either. He gave me the same song and dance a lot of men give their spouses. Swore up and down that he loved me. I just wasn't fulfilling his needs. He needed more than what I could give. It was just to spice up our life. It was just sex, etc. I did ask if there was someone else. He said no. To this day, I'm still not sure if I believed him. But at the time, I was angry and hurt and said no. He pestered me to change my mind for a week before giving me an ultimatum: open marriage or divorce. I chose an open marriage. I just couldn't bear the thought of him leaving me at the time. We have rules. We can't bring any partners home. We have to get tested for STDs every 3 months. 1 weekend out of the month must be left free for us time. Any money we spend with our partners must come from our personal accounts. I didn't partake in the open marriage myself for the first 3 months. Leo obviously did right away. He seemed to be gone around late almost all the time, but he always acted so happy and loving towards me while I felt like I was dying inside. It killed me to think he was sleeping with other women, and I felt so lonely and unattractive and not good enough. I told my sister, Katie, 26F, and a few close friends everything. Katie told me to just play his game and be part of the open marriage too. If he can sleep around, so could I. I honestly didn't have much confidence in myself at the time. I'm a bit overweight, and I've never considered myself conventionally pretty. I was afraid this would just humiliate me further. Katie and my best friend, Jessie, 30F, set up my online dating profiles for me. I got so many matches that it was overwhelming. When I told Leo, he was surprised but told me to do whatever I thought was best. Jessie helped me choose my first date, and I actually had a great time. He didn't pressure me for sex and took me out to drinks and dinner. We did have sex eventually, but it was all just casual, and we didn't see each other after. A couple months of casual dating, that first guy really made me feel more confident in myself, so I kept going on dates with men. A lot of them wanted to treat me, so I didn't have to spend much of my own money. Not only that, but some of the men have given me the best sex I've ever had in my life, almost like the kind of sex you read in romance novels. It's been amazing. I am currently seeing 2 different men alongside Leo. One, Mark, 38M, is more of a steady boyfriend I've been with for about 6 months, and the one, Steven, 25M, is very casual, mostly just hanging out and sex. They know about my open marriage, other relationships, and are fine with it. My husband has not been so lucky. In the beginning, he definitely was. He was always out and about and didn't seem to care even when I started dating too. But now he just complains a lot and hasn't been going out much. He whines about how he's usually the one spending money. A lot of the women he tries to be with want an emotional connection before sex. He often wants to be with younger women, but they want younger men. He's also been upset that I go out with random guys so often while he's at home alone all the time. He hasn't asked to close the marriage yet, but I feel like he will soon. He keeps saying he misses us and wants to spend more time together. He tried to initiate sex a lot more too. He wants to go on dates and go on vacations and all that stuff more and more, and he gets upset when I tell him I can't because I've already scheduled to do stuff with my partners, mostly Mark, honestly. I don't think I love Leo anymore. I care about him, but I just don't love him. I'm not saying I love Mark or Steven, but I honestly feel closer to Mark nowadays than I do Leo. Mark makes me feel comfortable and safe, and I love spending time with him more than my own husband. Steven is funny and sweet and really good at sex. Katie and Jesse have been wanting me to divorce for a year now, but I was afraid of hurting him and thought I still loved him. But I think my love for him died when he asked for this open marriage in the first place. Seeing him get all pissy about it now just because he's not benefiting from it is also a turn-off for me too. But I don't know if divorce is the best option. I still care about him and I still don't want to hurt him. Maybe if he finally asked to close the marriage, we can talk about it then. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Divorce. You're happier without him. He would only want to close the marriage because he can't get laid. Not that he only loves you. OP. We've just been together for so long that the idea of him not being there feels weird, which sounds stupid since I have 2 other partners, so it's not like I'll be lonely. But Leo was a part of my life for so long that for him to not be there just doesn't feel right. But you're probably right. OP on her husband dismissing her feelings regarding the open marriage. I really do think Leo does love me in his own way. Even when he was more active in the open marriage, he still made time for me and still did a lot for me. But you're probably right on the divorce. Comment 2. Part of the issue is the main relationship is supposed to be the important one. So the whole 1 week and a month for us time wasn't enough. OP. I actually did argue that in the beginning, but he insisted that he needed to keep his weekends free. He did spend a lot of time at home during the weekdays, so in his mind, that made up for it. Comment 3. What if he finds evidence of your open marriage and frames you as a cheater and then brings you to the cleaners? At this point, I wouldn't trust Leo. What you're experiencing is normal. You're used to his presence in your life, but how long are you going to live like this? OP. Jesse had the same train of thought as you and actually took screenshots of his dating profiles during the beginning of the open marriage. She also told me to save screenshots of any texts we had about the open marriage. I don't think Leo would do that, but I also didn't think he'd ever ask for an open marriage, so what do I know? Update 1. Hi everyone, I got so many comments and messages on my last post, which got deleted for some reason, that I was a bit overwhelmed, especially when a lot of you kept saying the same thing. Divorce, divorce, divorce. But the thing is, I think a part of me still loves my husband. I know in my last post that I didn't think I loved him anymore, but I can't just forget about the things that I do love. I love when he sings in the shower. I love when he laughs so hard he snorts. I love when he kisses my forehead when I've had a bad day. I love when he holds my hand when we watch TV together. Leo has done a lot of shitty things, but he really isn't the big jerk. People think, maybe that was my fault. But even if I do still love him, I'm not in love with him anymore. I don't think I have been for a while. Care about him. Part of me does still love him, but you all were right. I should have just divorced him when he gave me that ultimatum in the first place. This past Saturday we had the big talk. I initiated it, but he didn't seem too surprised. I just told him that I noticed he didn't seem to like me going out with Mark or Steven and asked if there was a problem. He said there was, but he didn't ask me to close the marriage. He just asked me if I still loved him. I said something like, "Not like I used to." He broke down crying, which made me cry. I guess he had known for a while that I wasn't in love anymore, but he had hoped he could win me back if he funneled all of his energy into me. I was honest and told him that during those first 3 months of our open marriage, I think my love for him died, and I just couldn't get it back. I did tell him that I still cared about him and that I did love him, but it's not the same as it was. He asked if I loved Mark or Steven, and I said no. I like being with them and I care about them a lot, but I can't say I'm in love with either of them. I also finally asked him why he wanted the open marriage in the first place. A lot of you in the comments said he already had someone lined up, and you were right. He had someone at work he was interested in, and she wanted him too. The open marriage was just to get permission. He honestly never expected me to also get my own partners because of how unconfident I was, but he didn't want to stop me either because he thought nothing would come of it. He didn't really like me seeing other men, but he knew it wouldn't have been fair to tell me no when I gave him permission first. I guess Mark and Steven made him insecure because I was spending so much time with them on a regular basis. The open marriage was just sex on the side for him. He only did hookups and they never lasted long. He genuinely always just loved me, but he thought I was falling in love with my partners, and he was losing me and wanted to win me back. We cried a lot and talked a lot. We've decided to get a divorce. Since the house is in his name, I'm going to move out and live with Katie for a while. He told me I didn't have to and I could stay until the divorce was finalized. But I just can't. It's too hard to even look at him sometimes. I don't know how I feel, to be honest. I thought I would be relieved or sad. But I'm just tired. I wish I could have been like you all wanted me to be, clapping back or being sarcastic and snarky or rubbing it in his face, but I don't feel like I've won anything. I just feel lost. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I'm wondering if maybe the other woman ended it, so now he was back to what he was comfortable with, his wife. He went and had his fun, and when that died out, he was not left with a wife waiting for him at home. OP. He and his coworker were only sleeping together for maybe a month. She fulfilled his kinks that I never liked indulging in. That's why he was with most of his partners, because I wasn't interested in his kinks. Comment 2. He stepped out of this marriage first and tried to have his cake and eat it too. The thing with open marriages is that you can never count on how emotions will change. Sex is a very intimate action, and many people will develop emotional connections. Those connections come at a price. He placed a bet and he lost. At least he was man enough to acknowledge it and own up to it. There is no easy answer. I wish you healing. OP. Thank you. Leo just thought the open marriage would be a way for him to get all of his kinks he couldn't do with me because I wasn't into it. He knew how unconfident I was, which wasn't because of him. A lot of people seem to think that he eroded my self-esteem, but he didn't. We can thank my mother for that, but that's a whole other can of worms. So he never expected me to partake in the open marriage either. Comment 3. So basically, while he asked for a mutually open marriage, he expected it to be only his side open, and then got hurt that reality didn't meet his expectations. OP. Leo admitted that he did only expect his side to be open. He was never going to stop me from opening my side. But like I said, he didn't think I would, to be honest. I don't think I would have either if it wasn't for Jesse and Katie pushing me and making profiles for me. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.